All right, good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m. This is July the 9th. It is our regular Board of Alderman meeting for the town of Spencer for the month of July. We have everyone here from our board in attendance tonight, and we will begin with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. We'll start with the invocation. Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come together as citizens and leaders and staff of the town of Spencer. We ask that you be with us this evening and in each day forward in the decisions and actions we take for this town. We ask that you also be with us, give us wisdom, discernment, and strength in all the decisions we make tonight. Amen. Okay. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, board, you have before you your agenda this evening. Again, we did not have our pre-agenda meeting as we usually do each month because of the 4th of July holiday last week. So we have not added any consent agenda items tonight except for approval of our previous minutes. So with that, are there any deletions or additions to the agenda tonight from the board or from the manager and staff?
None from us.
Okay, board? Nope. All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as before you?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Sledge, second by Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right, all opposed? And our agenda is approved and set for this evening. We will move to our recognitions, and I want to invite Fire Chief Lanning forward for introductions of new full-time fire department staff.
Mayor and Board, how are you this afternoon?
Good.
Doing well.
So if I can have our firemen and engineers step forward, please. So I know for 3.5 years we talked about it, and it at one point was a dream that was far-fetched. Although we are still down an engineer, I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity for them to meet you and for y'all to meet them as well. So we have Lexi Collins. She's one of our firefighters, Derek Walker, and Colby Smith, and those are our 3 full-time firemen. And Billy Parrish and Stephen Arnold are 2 of the 3 full-time engineers.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Welcome. Glad to hear
I also told them they each had to present a 5-minute speech, so I'll turn that over to them now. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're thrilled to have you.
Glad you're here.
Thanks for choosing Spencer.
Welcome. Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. All right, board, any other recognitions this evening? Okay, hearing none, we will move to public comment. We have a few folks signed up this evening, all related to chickens. So we have 4 folks signed up this evening. Want to make sure that there's no one else here tonight that wishes to speak. Okay, so we will move forward with those on the list. We'll start with the first. If you will, come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. We do have a timer. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and you state your name and address for the record when you come forward. We'll invite Nan Bloom to come forward first.
Good evening. I'm Nan Bloom. I live at 510 South Rowan. I'm on the corner of South Rowan and 6th Street where the Little Free Library is. I moved here 2 years ago from Charlotte. I had 4 hens in Charlotte. I followed all of the rules that Charlotte Mecklenburg had put out for chicken ownership in the city. And I was quite a good chicken mama. And I'm very much in favor of the pilot program that I've been hearing about. So I'm just coming here and wanting to lend my positive support for chicken ownership in Spencer. I was heartbroken when I moved to Spencer because I had to rehome my girls, but I love Spencer. That's about not having chickens is the only downside. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, next is Pat Wayne.
Good evening. I'm Pat Wayne. I live across the catty corner, as some people would say, from her, so I'm pretty close to her. So I feel like I would be affected by the chickens, which I would not be. It would be great to have the chickens. There are chickens in the neighborhood already that when I walk my dogs, I hear. So there's a rooster somewhere within a couple blocks. So there's some already that we have. I would just as soon see them be regulated and contained and being taken care of. So I'm totally in favor of the chickens and having them there. It'd be a wonderful addition to our neighborhood to be able to have somebody. And to for other folks that are moving in to think about it, that Spencer is a friendly community and that we're inclusive of things like that, because nowadays it's nice to be able to have something in your backyard that you can have chickens, you know. I'd love to have them, but my companion is not a chicken person, so but I can give her scraps and stuff, and so I think it'd be a great idea to have chickens. Thank you
very much.
Appreciate your consideration.
All right, next is Linda Miller.
I'm Linda Miller. I live at 402 Crestwood Lane, and today I stand before you to express my concerns regarding the proposal to allow chickens within our city limits. Firstly, let's address the potential health risks. Chickens can carry Salmonella and E. coli, bacteria that poses serious health threats to humans. In a city environment where homes are close together, these bacteria can easily spread, putting our community at risk. Secondly, chickens are not silent creatures. Their clucking and crowing can disrupt the peace of our neighborhoods, especially during early mornings. Additionally, the odor from chicken coops is not something one can easily ignore. It can affect the quality of life for those living nearby, and it can also become a contentious issue among neighbors. Chickens attract various predators and pests, including rats, foxes, and raccoons. These animals do not distinguish between rural and urban settings. They follow the food source. Their increased presence in our city could lead to more encounters with wildlife, which is not only dangerous but also disrupts our local ecosystem. There's also the matter of property values. The presence of chickens can lead to a decline in property values, as potential buyers may be deterred by the aspects I've mentioned: health risk, noise, odor, and pests. Finally, I'm very concerned about the issues related to code enforcement. If chickens are allowed, it will require a lot of inspection, monitoring, and addressing those complaints. In conclusion, while urban farming has its benefits, the risk and downsides of allowing chickens within the city limits far outweigh, in my opinion, what we must consider the well-being and harmony of our entire community. I urge the board to vote against this proposal, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. All right, next is, I believe it's Greg Bernard.
Hello, I'm Greg Bernard. I live over in 601 South Carolina Avenue, just a stone's throw from over here. I'm a handyman. I basically support my family that way. And one of the things I liked about the idea about having chickens is, in my experience, having 4 children, it benefits them, helping them take care of them. I like the pilot program for that reason. It helps us to know where our produce comes from. We grow our own vegetables. We have tower gardens where we grow our own vegetables. We have the freshest lettuce and tomatoes you'll see around, besides other herbs. But the fact that the chickens, I never thought it would be a good idea until I saw my sister raise them, and she loved them. They were like her little children, and she raised them for the eggs, to know that we had organic, healthy eggs. And she had plenty of them. She was always giving them to us. So I like the idea. Like I said, the reason I told you I'm a handyman, I do work in Charlotte quite often, and I work for 2 doctors, and they have several chickens, and I've worked there, and I didn't even know they were there. They were pretty quiet. They're not roosters. They were hens. They were chickens. So I do understand the concern about maybe a rooster. I think the dogs in my neighborhood are louder than any chicken will ever be, and I hear them every day. So as far as the noise pollution, I think the dogs are worse. But I do appreciate the fact that it's being done in this way, that it's a pilot program versus just let anybody do what they want, see what the impact is. And I think that's wise. I think this is a good decision. I would like to be part of it if we can. I don't have a huge yard, but I've been researching it, and you can have 4 or 5 chickens for a certain area where my yard is, and as long as they're housed well and they're taken care of, I think the risk of disease spread is depending on the owner. Just like a bad pet can also get sick and could spread disease, I think the same thing with chickens, as long as you're responsible. So I feel that I would be in support of this decision.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you all for those that spoke tonight. And we will move on to our consent agenda this evening. So, board, all you have on the consent agenda tonight are approval of minutes from the June 6th pre-agenda and June 11th regular meeting. So, is there any reason to further discuss those? And if not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, there's a motion by Ms. Sledge.
Second.
Second by Ms. Moody. All in favor? All right, all opposed? And the minutes are approved from June. We will now move on to item 7, which will consider appointing Patrice Mitchell to the Spencer Community Appearance Commission for a 3-year term expiring in July of 2027. Mr. Harris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the item before you concerns the appointment of Patrice Mitchell to our Community Appearance Commission, and our terms are for 3 years, and this would expire on July 31st, 2027. Just to give you all a reminder of how our Community Appearance Commission is currently structured, several months ago, the board approved increasing the number of members, I think to something like between 12 to 14. Essentially, it's a high number. The purpose being we'd like to get as many people on the Community Appearance Commission as possible. We recently had a couple of people decide to roll off the commission for various reasons. So it is a good time to get additional members. So we are sort of going through a drive to try to get some additional members right now. But to speak specifically about Patrice Mitchell, she did have an interview with the Community Appearance Commission on June 24th. And if I could say, it was a really excellent interview. The interview actually went for some time, and the commission was having an excellent dialogue with Ms. Mitchell. Regarding her skills, she actually does have a lot of very relevant skills to serve on the Community Appearance Commission, including but not limited to grant writing experience, teaching and curriculum development, youth social and emotional development, food, cooking and nutrition, and gardening and landscaping. And so we think a lot of those would be perfect for the project that the CAC is currently working on, including related to the community garden and future garden projects, for example, on Jefferson Street Park. And she even said that she chose to move to Spencer due to its small town charm, and she did express a commitment to serving in a local involvement towards our community. She is currently working as an educator. So that pretty much wraps it up. You have her board application and resume before you, as well as her cover letter. Ms. Mitchell is here tonight. If you would like to receive any statements from her. I did warn her that she may be asked to provide a statement, but the CAC has already done their sort of formal interview, and they have recommended her approval to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Board, are there any questions for Mr. Harris about Ms. Mitchell's application, or are there any specific questions for Ms. Mitchell this evening?
Ms. Mitchell, where do you teach? You're an educator?
Good evening, Mr. Williams and Board.
Good evening.
I'm Patrice Mitchell. I live on 510 4th Street. I'm currently teaching at the Juvenile Detention Center.
Okay.
In Cabarrus County.
Anything that you want to tell the board that we should know?
I'm super excited about this opportunity. Call it my little Christmas town. I've been here about a year and a half now. And I just love it. And I see the opportunities of it growing, but continue to keep that small town feel. And when you ride through it, you can see the beauty and you can see the hometown feel. And I was just like, I had talked to Andy and Amy at their restaurant, and they were telling me about the gazebo because I was fascinated by the garden. And I was asking all kinds of questions, and then she told me how I could get involved, and here I am.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you, thank you, thank
We
you.
appreciate your interest and willingness to be involved.
Thank you.
Board, any other questions? All right. So, Board, you have the application before you. We'll entertain a motion to appoint Patrice Mitchell to serve a 3-year term on the Community Affairs Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recommend that we appoint Ms. Mitchell to the Spencer Community Development Commission, please.
There's a motion
Second.
from Mr. Miller, second from Mr. Mahan. All in favor? All opposed? All right, that's approved unanimously. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Spencer.
You chose us all, one way or the other.
Glad to have you aboard.
All right, Mr. Blunt, we have another appointment to consider, and that's for Jim Mosher to the Planning and Zoning Board.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we are losing a great member who has served for the last 6 months. Her family is moving to Florida, Jessica Jackson, and we're sorry to see her leave. And to make matters just slightly complicated, she was actually appointed to fill Jim Moser's term when he resigned due to some business complications and health problems about 6 months ago. So you're actually being asked to reappoint him to the board to finish out Jessica's term, which will end on June of 25, and then we'll probably be back to you to ask for a reappointment at that time. He has served in the past on the board and as chairman of the board, so he has a wealth of knowledge on the planning board itself. And he's
And I'm
not here
assuming
only
he's willing to
he is
to
willing.
step back in?
Yes, absolutely. He's not here only because I forgot to invite him, so I'll answer any questions you have.
All right. Board, any questions on appointing Mr. Mosher back to the Planning and Zoning Board? All right, we'll entertain a motion to do so.
I make the motion to appoint Jim Mosher to the planning board seat.
All right. There's a
Second.
motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Muhammad, second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor? All opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Thank you all. All right. Next, we will consider authorizing the town manager and staff to apply for multiple grants for the proposed Standback Forest Main Trail. Do we have Joe with us tonight?
Yes, sir. Joe should be with us via Zoom, and we'll present this item. There he is.
Good evening, board and mayor. I'm happy to be here in Raleigh where it's hotter than the surface of the sun, but
looks cooler
really
there than it is here.
Hey, interesting night to choose to sit out.
nice and cool in Spencer, I'm sure. We have an opportunity that has availed itself to the town of Spencer. There is a new program through the state parks system that's called it's actually through the Great Trails Coalition, which is a component of the state park system. The program is called the Great Trail State Grant Program. And the legislature has appointed about $30 million for trail programs, trail development in North Carolina. And the deadline for the application for this grant is September 3rd. And so we have plenty of time to get things together in advance of that. But we have a couple of things that we want to run by the board if you're willing to authorize the manager and the staff to pursue the grant. The criteria for the grant include a grant range of between $100,000 and $500,000. And Rowan County is designated as a Tier 2 county. And for a Tier 2 county, the grant program would require a $1 local match for every $2 leverage in grant funds. So simply put, to maximize the grant at $500,000, we would need to provide a $250,000 local match. And our idea is to provide a very robust trail development within the Fred and Alice Sandback Educational Forest in the newly acquired 46 acres that are north of Spencer Avenue. There is already a trail system within that land area, but this would actually be building it out to a more usable trail surface, a wider trail, address a lot of the drainage issues that are there, cross over a creek, and ultimately we would be able to connect to our Grants Creek Blueway trailhead that we have applied for a grant for, that we should hopefully hear from that program sometime in late fall. So that's what we're sort of proposing that the board consider. I can report that in the last couple of weeks, we have been communicating with some of our partners in the philanthropic community, and we have some very strong assurances that we will be able to attain some funds to go toward our local match. The other thing is that there is a rolling grant program through the Carolina Thread Trail. We met with Thread Trail staff last week, and our plan is to submit a grant application, again, if the board is willing to allow us to submit a grant application for $50,000 that would go for the local match. So the short of it is, we're asking the board to authorize the manager and staff to pursue multiple grants. Some would actually be donations or gifts. There would be the Carolina Thread Trail grant. And ultimately, we would want to apply for the $500,000 Great Trail State grant program funds. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Peter has been working on this project with me, and he might have some insight as well.
Any more insight than that? He did a good job, I think, explaining it.
Yes, Joe, I think you covered it well, and today I was appreciative of the opportunity on Friday morning, despite the muggy weather, to go out into the trail area with the staff from the Carolina Thread Trail to let them kind of see what we were talking about and get a good understanding. And not that guaranteed any outcome with their process, but it seemed like what we were seeking to do was in line with their program.
Board, questions for the manager or Mr. Morris?
Best case scenario, and I guess I'm going to ask worst case scenario, what are we thinking with these alternative grants and maybe local gifts for the local match? What are we anticipating being able to get for the local match of $250,000?
So based on the conversations that mostly Joe has had, we believe that if we're successful with the $50,000 application to the Thread Trail, that we could have the other $200,000 covered with the other philanthropic efforts. So
basically, moral of the story is, as we've seen with many of our other recreational projects, this will be a project that will be able to be completed with minimal to most likely no additional town investment, which is fantastic. It's great to see that we have folks, generous folks within our community and beyond the Spencer community that see value in those recreational opportunities and are willing to step up and help fund them. So very grateful for that. And again, I think the key is we acquired or were granted the additional property. So we're now right at 100 acres of kind of pristine hardwood forest, which is unusual for a town of our size to have that. Half of which has been developed with nice trails and provides a great opportunity to folks to get outdoors and walk and spend time in nature. And the goal all along has been for us to be able to then expand that trail system into the new area, and this funding would allow us to do that. If you recall, Mr. Morris worked with, I believe, Dinesh, who has designed many of our recreational facilities, to come up with a trail plan and costs for what it would take to build out the trail system in the new area, Standback Forest. And so this is in line with the cost estimates that were brought up for that. So great opportunity for us.
Only other thing I'll add, now that I recalled the other part of our experiences, we were finishing up our hike and returning back to the 11th Street trailhead, and we first had a cyclist who was approaching behind us and said, you know, to the left, and turned out it was somebody that I think a lot of folks around here would know. Joe happened to know this person, but hadn't seen him in some years, and it took a minute to recognize him with the bike helmet and all this sort of thing. But he was commuting to work on his bicycle, going through the forest, which was interesting. We had a brief conversation, and then about 2 minutes later, then we happened upon somebody walking a dog going the other direction that Joe also knew, and described how he lived nearby and did this all the time. And boy, it's so hot right now. It sure is nice to walk the dog in here. And it was, and so the staff from the Thread Trail was with us, and I mean, it was just really, we couldn't have planted anyone that well if we wanted to. We tried to choreograph all that, it wouldn't have happened.
I mean, it shows that people are using it. I think when we're out there, we always bump into people.
Yeah.
There are not hundreds of people out there, and I think that's the intent of it, is that it's kind of a solitude area where folks can get away. But people are using it. School groups are using it. Scout groups are using it. So it's a great asset for our community.
I just read an article today about getting away to the woods and how forest immersion is one of the best ways to deal with stress. So this would be a wonderful thing for the citizens of our town. And the kids too, because kids have a lot of stress now too.
Well, and it shows that we're going to be good stewards of these gifts that have been given to us.
Right.
And so I think it's important to keep that in mind too.
All right.
I move that we authorize the staff and Joe and whoever else it takes to proceed with this grant application and all the other work that needs to go into making this happen.
That's great. All right, there's a motion from Ms. Sledge.
Second.
Second from Mr. Miller, and I'll point out, you asked worst case scenario.
What's it?
Worst case scenario is that we don't get the grants and we have to figure out some alternate solution. And then the maybe next worst case scenario is that we get the grant, we decide that we don't accept it. Right? So I don't think there's any really worst case scenario.
No, it's not a losing situation either way we go.
Right. All right, so there's a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, all opposed? That is approved unanimously.
Thank you, Joe.
You got more work to do, Jeff. Thank you very much.
Looks so cool sitting out there.
All right, next item is to consider awarding a historic preservation incentive grant to Catherine Sweeney. Mr. Harris.
Good evening again. So this is a relatively straightforward item. Homeowner Katie Sweeney, who lives at 212 North Salisbury Avenue, has submitted a grant application through our Historic Preservation Incentive Grant Program for $2,000 to help her with a much-needed chimney repair project. Just a little bit of background: her chimney is the chimney is brick and sandstone, and the top cap sandstone should never really have been built using that material. The sandstone has eroded severely. The piers supporting a slate slab at the top are so deteriorated that there's really a risk of imminent collapse. So she has found a contractor to do the project, as well as waterproof the chimney to prevent the issue that she's having, which is that water is infiltrating the house whenever it rains. She described that whenever it rains, she's having to put out towels in and around her chimney, her fireplace, to prevent further water damage into her home, which has wooden floors. So this is simply $2,000 to support her repair project, which will involve reconstruction of the cap of the chimney as well as waterproofing of the chimney itself. The HPC has already issued a permit for this project, which they did on June 17th. And this is consistent with our standards, which encourage the preservation and retention of historic chimneys. You have an application with your agenda items. You do have actually a copy of the staff report that went to the Historic Commission with various exhibits and photographs showing the condition of the chimney, showing the level of deterioration, as well as a very detailed PowerPoint that the applicant herself put together explaining why she needed the help. So all of those items are before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. Board, do you have any questions related to this funding grant application?
This doesn't necessarily require a match from her. It's just up to $2,000 that the grant.
No, it does require a match. So the way our grant program works is for every private dollar contributed toward a project, the town will match up to 50%. So for example, if she spends $4,000, we will reimburse her $2,000. So that's half the cost of the project. But the homeowner themselves does have to put up their own contribution towards the project.
In the application, she says total project costs $2,060. Funding request for $1,030 plus $150 plus $75.
Yes, and so whenever we request grant funds from the board, I usually will go up to the maximum amount in case, with projects, with contractors, with changes or change orders to a project, there may be additional costs that come in, and we do want to be able to provide up to $2,000 if the homeowner has additional costs that they were not expecting. But we do ensure that whatever costs are associated with the project, we do inspect all the records, make sure that there are paid invoices for all of the documented expenses, and that they're only requesting eligible costs.
Okay, thank you.
All right, board, any other questions?
No, I think she did her homework. She's really got a good packet put together for this.
Is there
Very descriptive. It's very descriptive too.
Yeah.
As far as visual and, written.
That's nice.
So, sir.
I thought that looked like yours, Betty.
It is.
All right, board, well, hearing no additional questions or input, is there a motion to award the HPI grant to Catherine Sweeney in the amount up to $2,000?
I move that we award Catherine Sweeney with the Historic Preservation Incentive Grant.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Muhammad, second by Mr. Miller. All in favor? All right, all opposed? That's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Harris. And the next item is to consider approving concept art created by the artist Max Dowdle. That is for our town hall mural. And I believe we have Sky Allen on the phone, or via Zoom. Good evening.
You're muted.
So, as said, tonight I would like to present you with the final piece of concept art created by the artist Max Dowdle and recently approved by the Spencer Mural Selection Committee. So this piece was developed to celebrate the labor that built Spencer and is intended to be installed on the side of the Spencer Town Hall facing 5th Street. Mr. Dowdle has been truly excellent to work with, and he has really taken the time to get to know the town of Spencer, attending the Spencer Labor History Storytelling and Social Night and listening to the stories of the Spencer community. He has collaborated with archivists of the North Carolina Transportation Museum to ensure the accuracy of the different images depicted there. So I would like to allow Max a moment to introduce himself and the work he's done.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Cool. Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. I am Max Dowdle. I'm a muralist, and I am very, 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 as I've told Sky over and over, I'm so excited about this project. It's my most looked forward to project this year, not only because it's a really fun subject matter. You're going to see the design is really bold and colorful, but it's a beautiful wall to work on. A stucco is like my very favorite. So everything about this project makes me happy, and I hope that it will bring joy to everybody who sees it for years to come.
All right, so if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to give a brief description of the piece itself and the different symbolism included there. So the mural begins on the far left with a representation of the Saponi people trading at the Shallow Ford Crossing, a point in the Yadkin River where First Nations people, pioneers, and armies have crossed for all manner of trading, war, and travel. The next panel is a representation of several sharecroppers tending farmland post-slavery. Below that is a panel of a woman caring for her children, a representation of the often invisible domestic work done by women in the home. Beside that is a group of male workers from dispenser shops inside the main building. The next panel is a group of women workers in the fabric finishing company plant alongside the Yadkin River. The top next panel is a representation of the workers at the Boone Rock bottling plant, which produced Boone Cola in the area. Below that panel is a group of grocery store workers doing the hard work of feeding a community. And the adjoining panel is a representation of the Spencer Labor Day Parade, highlighting and celebrating servicemen and women in uniform. In the next panel is a young man working at the school in Spencer that taught young disabled people watch and jewelry making skills. Below that is a representation of Dr. Clement seeing a patient. Dr. Clement is buried in a nearby graveyard at the original location of the New Hope AME Zion Church, where last year the Spencer Cares Community Cleanup removed a lot of vegetation and fallen trees so that the graveyard is now accessible. Upon Dr. Clement's headstone is the inscription, "The First Black Doctor in Rowan County," and his panel represents the care and dedication of medical professionals. The next image is that of a teacher at North Rowan High School celebrating the integration of the school and the hard work of educators. And the final image is that of the Southern Railway 1380, aka the Tennessean, the only Southern Railway train that was streamlined and was in service throughout the 1940s and has a strong connection to the Spencer area. This project is for a total of $19,056. We have thus far paid Mr. Dowrell a design consultation and or concept development process fee of $3,000. And after the approval is given by the board and later by the Historic Preservation Commission next month, we intend to pay him the first half of that remaining fee, and the last half of the fee will be pending the completion of the project. If the board has any questions or comments, we are both here to answer your questions.
All right, thank you both. Board, we'll open it up for any questions or comments about the concept artwork.
I got a question. Can you explain what you mean by a panel? Is that actually a drawing on the wall, or what exactly what it is, and what size are these panels going to be?
So the total piece will encompass the entire wall. I've been calling them panels, but this will be painted directly on the wall. These will be separate, like a removable panel, as with the the previous Ferris mural. I've just been describing them that way for clarity's sake.
So it'll be painted on the wall, no actual panels. It's just the individual pieces, the individual pictures you see are being referred to as the panels.
Is it going to be, or is it going to be some kind of explanation to the regular folks on what each panel or each mural is?
Yeah, so I had a question about that too, and I think, I guess the question is, we've talked about some type of audio tour or something like that. This one especially, I think, lends itself to the need for it because it does tell such a great story about the history of Spencer. To be, whether it's to have QR codes that are, not maybe integrated with the painting itself, but some below it or somewhere that we can attach those and then have it where folks can pull it up on their phone or can find out more information about it, I think would be great.
Yes, the intention is, at the beginning of this project, myself and the Spencer Mural Committee took a trip to Charlotte's South End Mural Walk, and they have a series of of little QR codes on small reinforced plastic panels that are screwed into the wall either on or beside a mural with a QR code on it. And the intention is that a guest will be able to scan the QR code and they will be able to get more information about the mural, and that could be the historical information, that could be photos or videos from the mural's creation process, or perhaps filters or interesting content that is just something to experience on site and not something you can just see in a photo online.
That's great. I think that would be fantastic. I think it's important with this piece. I think it's also important that Mr. Dowdle have some input on maybe how that's done or where those are located, because we definitely wouldn't want to take anything away from his art.
Of course.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
What's the scale of the panel? Height?
Do you have the measurements on hand, Sky?
Give me just one moment.
So it will run the full length of that recessed
Right.
area.
Mhm.
But I guess how
wonder
tall is it? Yeah.
Yeah, how tall?
Oh, I have it here. It's 15.5 feet tall by 110 feet long.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
This could be a great starting point when we do our walking tour. We talked about doing that on audio day and also with the brochure. So we could, include this with that. I think that'd be wonderful. And I want to applaud you for the inclusion of so many different types of labor. I've lived here my whole life, and you really got all of it. I really wanted to go to that meeting, but I was unable to go. But having lived here my whole life and having been a teacher, a history teacher, the fact that you started off with the Native Americans, I think that's outstanding. And then you've gone all the way through the development of our town and included the house lot. I just think you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. This has
like
been
what you did.
Yeah, no, this has been a lot of fun, the development process, and Sky knows because she was there for every step of it, going back and forth, and just making sure that we were as inclusive as possible, and we really just tried to pay homage to as much labor as we possibly could. And that right there, that idea is what led to this idea of having multiple panels telling many different stories within one larger piece. And I think that's a really special approach that I was really happy that I was able to hit on for this project, because I think it worked really well.
I think this will make a lot of people want to go visit the grave site of our doctor right up the street too. I just think it's wonderful what you've done.
Awesome. Oh, thank you.
I think it's stunning. Well done, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Both of them, yes.
Amazing.
I can imagine lots of people will take pictures of this to remember their visit to Spencer.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
Board, any other input or questions? Okay. Well, with that, we will consider approving the concept art by the artist Max Dowdle. Is there a motion to approve the concept art presented to you tonight?
So moved.
There's a motion from Ms. Sechrist.
Second.
Second from Ms. Moody. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right. All opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Thank you both for all your hard work. Sky, I know you've been very active in leading this project, so thank you
so
and
much.
Max. Thank you.
And thank you, Sky, for sure. Yeah, thank you, everybody, so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Board and Mayor.
All right, board will move on to a few ordinance adoption considerations. I do want to take a brief moment to just take a break before we get into all of that. I do see that we have our representative from the EDC, Mr. Scott Shelton, with us tonight, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity if there's anything you want to bring to us tonight from the EDC.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, board members. I don't have any big announcements. Just thought it was a good time to stop by since the year is about halfway behind us, and kind of give an update on what ADC has been, what we've been up to the past few months. And overall, with project activity, the overall activity has been strong. We measure activity by leads. And a lead is when a company asks us for assistance in helping their company locate or expand, in Rowan County, and that could be finding a new building, finding a new site, put them together with programs such as workforce development, incentives, helping with permitting, things like that. And if we're able to assist them with any of those things, we call it a qualified lead. So again, that's how we track things. And so at this point, or as of June 30th this year compared to last year, leads are up by a nice number. We're up at 76 this year versus 69 last year, and last year was one of our better years. And also, not only are there more leads, there are more qualified leads, instances where we're able to find that building or that site or that program to help. So far this year, we've qualified 59 of those 76 leads for about 78%. Last year at this time, we're at 75, so a nice little tick in the right direction, and that really kind of speaks to, I think, the increased inventory of buildings and sites in Rowan County. And I know that Spencer and North Rowan are working hard on that themselves, and regarding things specific to Spencer and North Rowan, I know the board's aware that multiple developers are looking at sites in the Spencer and East Spencer area for potential spec buildings, and we, along with the town, are trying to lend our support to help those come to fruition. In May, we hosted a meeting at the EDC with the development group and SRU to discuss potential water and sewer service to that site. That's the site over there back behind the gas station off of Willow Creek Drive. And after the meeting, we sat down with them to talk about the county and things we can do to assist that project and reinforce our support for the project. We also attended the chamber-sponsored meeting last month with Spencer and East Spencer officials, along with our federal and state legislators, to talk about ways to assist those projects that are essential for future growth to North Rowan. And of course, we're happy to assist with that, however we can. And some other activities, back in May, we hosted an announcement event for the expansion of AMREP on Julian Road. That's 170 jobs, $21 million. Always great to see an existing company come to Rowan County from California and they like it so much they expand. The event was on May 30th. The Deputy Secretary of Commerce, Jordan Wichert, was there to make the formal announcement. We had about 50 attendees from the community, and overall it was a good event, got some good coverage with the local and regional media. And we hope to announce a few more projects soon in the next couple of months. And then just to close, I want to remind everybody that our board meetings are on the second Thursday of the month at 3:30 at the Gateway Building downtown. I know Alderman Sledge attends faithfully every month, but we want to encourage everybody else to attend if you can. And also, we'd like to thank the board for your continued support of the EDC and our efforts. This is a team sport, and a lot of people over the years have helped lay this foundation to grow for this county, and we hope to see those efforts pay off for our community as a whole. And we'll continue to seek projects that can grow the tax base of Spencer while maintaining your vision for the town. So that's all I have for this month, and again, thank you for your support. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for the update. Board, any questions from Scott or on behalf of the EDC?
Mr. Shelton, I was happy to know that AMREP is the builder of the roll-offs for the garbage, and they plan to build those garbage trucks like the one we just bought here in Rowan County. So with their expansion, so that's an excellent project for us, for you to land.
Yeah, well, it's what we're looking for. It's it's high-tech manufacturing, good-paying jobs, and again, love to see a company come here seeking a better business climate. They decide they like it so much they're going to expand. So it was a good project for everybody, and hope to see more of those. And that's the type of thing we are courting.
Board, any other questions? All right.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Scott.
coming
Thank
tonight.
you.
Appreciate it, Scott. All right, so we will move now. We'll invite Mr. Blunt forward. He's going to present ordinance 24-14, which would amend technical standards, our technical standards manual for our Spencer development ordinance regarding 40-foot road right-of-way options.
Mayor, members of the board, before I get started on that, I'll follow up with Scott. He mentioned the Willow Creek project on the east side of that interstate. You'll remember that last year it was an 80-acre site, 2 buildings, over 1 million square feet of space. Went through the planning process, rezoning, annexation, and then the financing for that developer fell through. A new developer's come in and taken an option on the property, has contacted us, picked up the planning process where it left off, and they seem very serious about seeing that through to fruition. The Fisher Lamb site, which we've been talking about, seems like for decades. I've only been here for 2 years, so it can't be that long. But that has actually been bought by the developer that's been looking at that. And usually once they write a check to buy something for millions of dollars, they are really serious about doing it. So good news for both of them. Okay, we presented this to you last month, and that was sort of a testing of the waters presentation to see how y'all felt about it. You gave us some great feedback to go back and work on. I will run through the same slides that you saw last month, just to remind you of what we're looking at, and then give you what we think is a possible solution to the problem, and a few more slides that we added. So this is about previously platted subdivisions, almost all in our ETJ, that were platted long enough ago that the road right-of-ways were not large enough to meet our current standards. This is the Bell Mead subdivision at the corner of 7th Street and Hawkins Town Road. The roads that were platted, you see there in yellow and black. The ones that were actually built are in black. The ones that are in yellow, the right-of-ways exist, but the roads were never built. And what that does, you can see here that some homes were built along the paved roads, but these properties are not accessible to those roads. They front the right-of-ways where the roads were never built. And therefore, based on our ordinance, I can't issue a zoning permit to build a house unless they have access to a public road. So the way our ordinance is written, when people call and want to develop these lots, I have to tell them, sure, I'll issue it tomorrow if you'll build that road. And the building of the road is the problem. This is the upper left-hand part there. You can see where the group of property owners back in the 80s actually tried to solve this problem by agreeing to expand the right-of-way to make it adequate for our road system, but they didn't build the road. So they still got the problem of getting the cost of the road built. The right-of-way on that little piece of it would be adequate. This is over off of Hawkins Loop Road. This one I received phone calls almost monthly. Most of those lots were available for purchase along that right-of-way. But again, I had to tell people, you got to build the road. A very smart young man has decided to buy up some of those lots. So he's reaching the point where he can afford to put the road in. But he can't do it on a 60-foot right-of-way because that right-of-way is not 60 feet wide. These are the properties around Hawkinstown Road and Hawkins Loop Road that don't have direct access onto either of those roads. And so it would be very difficult to develop those. Some of them have right-of-ways for roads platted, some of them don't. So that's not, all those things in orange are not affected by this ordinance, but a number of them are. This is our current road right-of-way, requires 60 feet to accommodate the paved lanes and also the ditches, drainage ditches, and in this case, sidewalks. We require sidewalks of all our new developed roads. These are NCDOT right-of-ways. One of them goes down to 50 feet, so 50 feet is what NCDOT's minimum would be. Kannapolis gets down a little lower than that. This is a slide showing you what a 40-foot right-of-way looks like. Now, a road built on a 40-foot right-of-way right here in Spencer. And we've got a number of these existing in the town of Spencer. The right-of-way, I should have marked it on the slide, but it's from about the crest of the hill on the left to the right-hand side of the ditch on the right. So the right-of-way is about twice as wide as the road itself. This is on Tabor Street in Bellmead subdivision that I just showed you, looking down Benson Street, I believe it is. Although it's not a street, it's being used as a driveway by somebody. Not exactly legally, but nobody cared at the time this was done. But that would be one of the roads that could be extended back in there to open up numerous lots for development. Turn around and look the other way, and that's what Benson Street looks like going back towards 7th Street. Sort of a dirt lane accessing that barn, but houses can't be built on those properties. This is that one I told you the smart young man's looking at, and it's not the gravel part to the left, that's the right-of-way, it's where all the trees are there. And it's, I think that one is actually measuring out at 50 feet as a right-of-way. This is what we suggested to you at the last meeting. Let us come up with a 40-foot right-of-way that would solve the right-of-way problem. And I'm still suggesting that we adopt this as an optional cross-section for a road for platted subdivisions, subdivisions that are already platted. It would not be allowed on other subdivisions. New subdivisions would be required to meet our current standards. So this, and I think you have it in your package, is what we came up with as a possible option to meet your very valid concerns that you voiced at the last meeting. If we allow these roads to be built, who's going to maintain them? So what we've done at this point is gone into section 2.2C of the development ordinance that actually already allowed private roads. And we're suggesting that we add some text to that that gives the developer two basic options. The first option is if you want to develop these lots, build a road to NCDOT standards and get NCDOT to approve it and take it into their maintenance system. That's one option. The other option is to build a private road, but as a part of building that private road, they have to get a written agreement with all of the property owners along that right-of-way to participate in the maintenance going forward. As you can imagine, if there's 10 lots and you have 6 of them that you own, and there's 4 other people that you have to convince to sign that agreement, that's going to be very difficult. Although it's a benefit to them to have the road paved, a lot of these property owners live scattered across the United States, and they inherited these properties and aren't really interested in investing a lot of money. So in my opinion, the first option is the best one. Build it to NCDOT standards, let NCDOT take care of it going forward. But these two options would be available to developers, and it'd be up to them to execute these options. Just as a cursory thing, I looked at GIS this morning to see where these took place, where there were platted roads that were never built that are preventing properties from being developed. And what you see in blue to the left is the Bellmead and the Hawkins Meadows. To the right is the Lincoln Avenue, called Washington Estates. It's when it was platted out in 1903. You're going to be looking at an annexation of Lincoln Avenue that is a part of this. It's already got a road on it, but there are a number of other properties that don't. And then surprisingly, there's a few within the municipal limits where roads were platted long ago, but were not built. Most of them due to topography, quite honestly. They were platted out across gullies, and it would take a lot of money to finish them out. But they are platted, and they are there, and we get calls from people from time to time wondering about developing. And the answer for them is build a road. Build the road. So I just wanted you to see the level of impact that this decision might have. The two options that I suggest that you adopt as a text amendment are both very difficult to achieve. They're both very costly to achieve. So I don't think there will be a rush to build a lot of roads, but this does give them an option. Instead of me saying no, I can say yes if you'll do this. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Board questions?
With the young man who's purchased those lots, do you feel like he will develop that and will build a road?
He has a partner, and the gentleman I've been speaking to wants to build his house for himself on one of the lots. He is interested in maybe buying another lot to build a house because he has a big family and they come to visit, so it would be sort of a vacation house. That's 2 of the lots, and they're to the far left of the end of the road. So he's got to have the whole road to do those 2 lots. And then he and his partner, the other lots that they purchased, they plan to build houses on and sell them to recoup their cost. They are continuing to contact the other property owners of record, but as I indicated, some of these property owners live in Texas and Pennsylvania and wherever. They're scattered all over the place. So it may be difficult for them. At some point, he'll do the math and decide whether it makes sense to build the road. When they ask me how much road costs, I use the old figure of $1 million a mile. And you divide that by 5,280 feet, and it tells you how many dollars per feet it takes to build a road. and they'll pencil it out and see if it works. If it does, they'll build the road. He has come back with many options, wanting to know if he can put a fruit orchard back there. And the answer is yes, but you can't build any buildings without a zoning permit. So he's got some creative ideas to try to use the property. I think he's actually already started clearing the right of way, which I told him we wouldn't object to. So he's clearing the trees out of the right of way that have grown up. That picture that you saw of the trees next to the gravel driveway. So I think he's serious about it, and either he or his partner is a contractor, so they have the equipment and know how to get it done.
Mr. Blunt, I think you've taken our comments, and it's a less than perfect solution to a less than perfect, problem, right? I mean, it is workable. I think the one remaining piece for me is, and maybe you can help me, what do we already require? Do we require them, or can we require them to, if we approve this, to basically stub into the property line so we don't get this thing of, disjointed, mismatched roads? Because one of the things we talked about last time was, are we going to make someone build the whole road, or just basically go, lot by lot by lot by lot, which I do think there's a risk of that being a little chaotic. But if we make them go to the property line, I think I could be okay with that. I mean, just your thoughts.
Our current ordinance says you have to have access to a public road. Okay. So if a lot, let's say it's the first lot along the right of way, and he wants to build just enough road to get his lot to meet that requirement, then by our current ordinance, he would have to build it long enough to get to his driveway. He wouldn't have to build it all the way across his property. Now, we can certainly add that text in if that's a concern to you. Again, if it's built to DOT standards, then it would be the next property owners down the line that would have to pick it up wherever it is and build it to their properties. And anything the first property owner did takes away the cost from those next property owners. So the more road gets built, the cheaper it is. The lots, in this case, sort of match up on each side of the road as far as the dividing lines, but there will be cases where they're not matching up. The Lincoln Avenue is a great example. So to try to take it to the far property line would still leave it in the middle of somebody else's property. So personal opinion is current ordinance seems to work. They have to have access to a public road. This gives them that access.
Other question? I think we gave you marching orders and you came back with what we asked you to do, so we appreciate that very much.
And I will point out that you did hold the public hearing at your last meeting, so that's taken care of. Planning board met last night and they recommended approval of the text amendment as submitted.
So board, you heard the presentation and the recommendation of the planning board. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 24-14?
So move.
A motion by Mr. Muhammad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion at this point? All right, all in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved unanimously. We will move to ordinance 24-16. Temporary road closure on Oakwood Drive.
North Rowan High School is planning on hosting a back-to-school block party on Saturday, August 10th, and that will require the closure of Oakwood Avenue, or Oakwood Drive, excuse me, between North Whitehead Avenue and Pinecroft Lane. So let me explain a little bit more about that. They are actually utilizing the town-provided school safety grant to facilitate this event, which is a great thing. Initially, they had requested closure of Whitehead Avenue in front of the school, but for a variety of reasons, our staff determined that we would not be able to support that magnitude of a closure, primarily because Whitehead Avenue has a lot of heavy traffic, and that would require detours throughout the town requiring a fairly large constellation of control points, which our staff determined that they would not be able to support in terms of logistics, safety, etc. So we did offer the counter proposal of Oakwood Drive as the next best alternative, which would only require 2 control points up at North Whitehead Avenue and Pinecroft Lane. And of course, if you think back to the holiday parade, which happens every year, those are 2 kind of control points that we're familiar with. They can be relatively easily controlled without requiring a overly complex detour and traffic control strategy. So what this ordinance would do is simply the town would provide their support for the closure of that street, specifically from 8 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. on the date of the event, which again is Saturday, August 10th. I have already reached out to DOT, and they have said that there are no issues from their side, so that they will be fine with the closure of that street. I do also want to point out that the way the language of DOT special events, the ordinance requires the town to basically say that we're accepting responsibility for traffic control, safety, etc. But really, this would be a partnership between the schools and the town. North Rand High School themselves, as the event organizer, will be primarily responsible for the event as well as just cleanup and things like that. The town's primary role will be to support logistically with traffic control and public safety. I will say that even if the board chooses to adopt this ordinance, that does not necessarily mean that the event itself is approved. From the town's level, we have not yet approved the event permit for this because we still have a couple of additional details with exactly how public safety, the police, and traffic control are going to work. But this is a necessary precondition to getting that event approved. And I did provide a map of the closures in the exhibits as well as the draft language. Any questions for me?
I do. It's terrace.
Yes.
There's about 6 or 8 houses on that block. You closing them up where they can't get out or in. What kind of?
So what we would do would be similar to how we would do it for the holiday parade, which is first we would provide notice to all the affected property owners that the street will be closed on this day. There will probably be an opportunity to provide local traffic if we can get that logistically to work. But it is always sort of a challenge to close a street with anyone living there.
Are you notifying these people? I mean,
the town will be notifying them. We will be providing notices.
All right. If there's any destruction on this property by students or anybody else on this, are we responsible, the town responsible for that?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay.
When you say destruction on whose property?
Well, on these people living next door.
Lawns or anything of that nature.
Say if they went out and did something in the yards or something like that. I'm just saying, I'm looking at a worst case scenario, okay? I'm not looking, I don't think it's gonna be any problem. As long as we got enough police protection, I don't think it's an issue, but we're partnered with North Rand High School, so.
So I'm just thinking in my own mind logically about how this is working. The school itself is submitting the special event application to DOT to utilize the roads.
Yeah.
This ordinance is just one component of that.
Okay.
I haven't really explored the issue of, or the question of liability. It is a good question, and maybe we can do some additional research on it. Usually, and my best example is the holiday parade.
Okay.
Usually we just kind of figure it out, to be honest, and usually nothing goes wrong. But this ordinance is just the town authorizing that particular closure for the school to utilize the street on that day.
The other question I would have is emergency vehicles and things like that. Would that be a concern if that's closed?
If it does come up in our internal process, I'm sure Chief Lanning or Chief File would bring it up. But again, as I said, we have not approved the event permit, and there is still a need to take some additional steps to review the scope of this event.
Well,
I would say even with the road closure, emergency vehicles can access if they need to for the event. And then what they're talking about, those locations at Pinecroft and between Whitehead, really the only emergency situation not related to the event would be any of those houses that are right there.
Right.
As far as getting around, it's pretty easy to go up and go over the forest elm and cut around.
Okay.
So it's not, and I think that was part of the reason I think y'all suggested that area for the closure as opposed to on Whitehead.
Well, and since they're using our grant money to put this thing on, we are sort of a partner in it, I guess.
I talked to one of the organizers of this, and I suggested that she get in touch with you. And I feel sure it's going to be very well manned and organized, because everything they've done is like that. And I think the kids will be wonderful with it. And you got the parking lots right beside of that too. And I imagine I think they have something planned there too. I think they're going to incorporate a car show.
Yes, and that's actually the reason they need additional space, because the car show will take up a large percentage of the parking lot. That was my first question. Can you not utilize your existing off-street paved areas?
Yeah.
And they indicated that because of all the other events going on, they needed the additional space.
Right. And I imagine a lot of the kids will be over there with the cars. That's what I'm suspecting.
And I think the reality is, you're talking, Mr. Miller mentioned about property damage and things like that. This is no different than any school day. It's no different than any football game. The reality is, if people's property gets damaged, the people that are liable are the people that damage the property. And so that's just on the burden of proof to be able to figure out who did that. But as far as the town or the school, even from a liability perspective, it's perpetrators that are liable. So, I mean, personally, these type of things where we can bring the community together, especially from a school standpoint, it's all positive. I know we're thinking in the negative and thinking about all the bad things that could happen. And from a permitting perspective, we have to do that. That's what Mr. Harris's job is. But, from our perspective, our job is to make sure that we are keeping everyone safe, but more so that we're being able to promote community togetherness. So if there is a motion to adopt the ordinance 24-16 for the temporary road closure on Oakwood Drive, we will entertain it now.
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Second by Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right. All opposed? And that is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Blunt. We heard some community input this evening, and we appreciate that very much. And we are going to hear about a proposed ordinance 24-17 for modifications to our livestock ordinance and potential creation of a pilot program.
So the reason we're all really here tonight to talk about chickens.
Is that what we're
I really like here.
My wife asked me what was on the agenda tonight, and I said chickens, and she just got all excited because she wants.
We're forgetting the goats.
Chicken. We haven't gotten the goats yet. Let's
one step at a time.
Tackle chickens. Again, you saw this presentation last month. I think I've added a few more slides, but I'll run through the whole thing for you very quickly. Chickens are good. Chickens can be good. Chickens are a good source of protein, quality food, and entertainment for families. They're just like pets for many people, but they can be a problem. And we've heard from one citizen tonight, and certainly y'all expressed it at your last meeting. They can get out of control. You can have noise. You can have odors. You can have pests. Does the good outweigh the bad? That's the decision for you folks to get all the money. But this is our current ordinance as far as keeping livestock in the municipal limits of Spencer. And again, in our ETJ, which is just right up next to our border, we don't regulate it. We can't regulate it. It's a Police Power Act. So we can't regulate chickens or goats or mules or anything else right outside the city limits. The biggest problem on this one is what we tried to fix with the text amendment Number one, you have to have 2 acres before you can even be considered for having chickens or any other livestock. And then there are some fairly difficult to meet separation requirements. I tried to map this out on my piece of property with a 1 acre lot, a house up on the front, and lots of area in the back, 3/4 of an acre that's undeveloped behind my house. And because of these proximity requirements, my lot won't, if it was 2 acres, it wouldn't qualify because it's too close to my neighbors. I checked all the surrounding municipalities to find out what they're doing. Everybody's doing something different. And this has been an issue for at least years, if not decades, where different communities continue to hear from their citizens that they would like to have this ability. It gets pushed around. I think Concord just recently adopted theirs to allow chickens. The issues we were going to consider, the options that you had at the last meeting basically was to allow staff to come up with some ideas. And we came up with the idea based on your suggestion that we do a pilot program. We came up with a text amendment that allows that pilot program. Just a quick, you've got a copy of the whole thing in your package, but the pilot program would run for about 1 year. We would have a maximum of 12 permits issued for the first year. Those permits will be on first come, first served basis, so we don't even have the permit drafted yet, but if you approve it, we'll try to do that this week, and then we'll be ready to start issuing permits after that. These are the limitations that would apply, and there's one of these that I want to talk to you about in a little more detail. We presented this to the planning board last night. They recommended approval of this text amendment for the pilot program. Not forever and ever, but a pilot program. Let's give it a try and see what happens. The one thing that dawned on me, and my eyesight, let's look at the big picture here. This one tells you the number of chickens you can keep. And part that I highlighted in yellow says a maximum of 5 chickens on a half-acre lot or small. Is that what it says? Half-acre or small? Okay. I'm sorry, I don't need to talk to you about that. I was concerned when I explained this to the planning board that I had made a half-acre the minimum size. And surprisingly, there's not a whole lot of half-acre lots in the town of Spencer. Our MST zoning classification, which most of the small lots in the core of Spencer are, it's an 1/8 acre is the minimum lot size, 5,000 square feet. Most of them are bigger than that, but that's the minimum size. Most of the lots in the old core area are 50 feet wide by 100 feet deep. So that's the 5,000 square feet. And there is a clause in this that if somebody gets a permit, gets approved to have chickens, and then they break the rules or don't live up to what they tell us they're going to do as far as enclosures, we can revoke the permit. At any time, our code enforcement officer can revoke it. They have 15 days to get rid of their chickens if we revoke the permit. At the end of the year, it's going to come back to you. You're going to be able to make a decision to modify the program, to keep it in effect as it's currently drafted, or to do away with it altogether. So if in the first year of this operation, chickens become a problem for our community, at the end of the year, you can stop it. If anytime during that first year an individual property becomes a problem, we can revoke their permit and do away with that particular problem. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blunt. Board, what questions do you have?
I got a question. The thing I'm most concerned about is this 5 chickens lots, half acres or smaller, because you look at a lot of these new houses that are being built, like you said, they're 50 foot by 100 foot or something like that. And I'm concerned about how close these houses are next to each other. You might have somebody, and Ms. Blunt, Ms. Wayne, I'm not talking bad about y'all, you understand that, but I'm just trying to look after the neighborhood as far as that goes. But as close as these people could be side by side, you can find somebody who loves chickens, and you can have somebody who hates those chickens. So, like I said, I know you're saying back 50 feet from occupied structures, and I don't know if you actually got it from some of these smaller homes as far as that.
If they don't have it, they can't have chickens.
Okay, that's what I'm concerned about, because I think if you try to crowd them in these smaller lots, you might run into a problem with neighbors and everything else. So I am concerned about that.
We got most of these numbers from other communities' ordinances. And Concord's the only one I'm aware of that just recently adopted one. All the rest of them have been in place for a while. As you heard one of our public commenter people, if chickens are well cared for, they're kept fed and housed and enclosed properly, in most cases you don't know they're there.
Right.
It's only when you don't take care of them, or you let the dog get in with them, or the coyote jumps the fence, or the possum goes under the fence, that you're going to start hearing from them. So it's going to boil down to the people keeping the chickens living up to their promise that they're committing to when they get the permit. Because in addition to that revocation clause is that if we get complaints, the code enforcement officer can go out and ascertain whether the complaints are valid. And if they are, we can revoke that permit at that time.
I understand. Here's another thing. We just hired somebody as code enforcement. And this is, to me, very unusual for him to do something like this as far as that goes. Have you talked to him about this issue as far as that?
I've not talked to him about chickens, but I will tell you that although we have 12 slots available,
right,
I doubt you're going to get 12 people involved in chickens in your first year.
I don't.
Unless we go out and knock on door to door. Unless my wife spreads the word. So I would imagine you're going to have a handful of people come in, and out of that handful, you might have one or two that don't do it right.
Right.
So you talk about one or two additional code enforcement issues for our code enforcement officer.
And we already have chickens in Spencer illegally. And I think this needs to be explained to these people, because one of them is fairly close to my house, and it's a rooster too.
We were asked last night if the people that had chickens in town would be grandfathered in.
Yeah.
No, we're not changing the current ordinance. We're establishing a pilot program. So anybody that's in violation of the current ordinance and in violation of this because they don't have a permit,
right,
all we need is a phone call from somebody saying, hey, Joe's got chickens, and the code enforcement officer will go out and enforce our current ordinance.
So this is a great point, because knowing that we have some of that issue and that those issues need to be taken care of because people need to be doing things according to our ordinances. Those that have gone through the process, if we do approve the pilot program, we need to make sure that there is some sort of identification at the front of their property or something like that, so that neighbors know that they are part of the pilot program that's being conducted through the town of Spencer. That kind of gives them authority that yes, they can have moose there.
Lawn signs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something, whether it's even a small, just so that people are aware that it's a pilot program.
One of our planning board
Because what we don't want is somebody to go through the process, do everything like they've been told to, and neighbors start calling, not because they're a problem, but just because, hey, they shouldn't have chickens, but they do.
Right. We can look into that. One of our planning board members lived in Raleigh, and Raleigh is a big chicken keeping town to the point where they have a tour to chicken coop. Tour to coop. They are so proud of their chicken coops, and if you want to see a densely populated area, go into the inner loop area of Raleigh, and some of the coops must cost as much as my house because they are very elaborate, very well done. So maybe that's the path this town will take, and I've always thought that Spencer should aspire to be a quirky town. Austin, Texas did that at one time.
Quirky town.
And
That's
this,
what we need
this
to
is a
be.
part of that move to being quirky.
I have a couple of questions I'd
Yes,
like to
ma'am.
ask. The specifications say a 6-foot tall fence.
Yes, ma'am.
What if we have someone who has a fence that's not 6 feet? Do they have to replace their fence?
Technically, but I would say it would be a matter of me going out and looking at it to see if the current fence meets the intent of the ordinance. If it does, I would probably approve the permit with a, say, a 5-foot fence, if that's what they've got.
Don't we have some requirements about fencing inside the historic district already? Is there not something in the books about that? What you can do,
It
what
has
you
to
can't
get
do?
a certificate of appropriateness, but if you've ridden around Spencer recently, very few fences are turned down. It's more of the appearance of the material than it is the actual putting up of the fence that's regulated.
Okay. And the other thing, how do we evaluate the pilot program at the end of the?
You guys do. A year from now, I'll come back and say, what do you think? Should we keep it in place or not? If you've received complaints, if we've received complaints, if code enforcement has had to go out numerous times, all that will be presented and you guys will get to vote again.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd make a suggestion too. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for if we decide to do this from a pilot perspective, to maybe us be able to look when there are other things that come up, maybe not necessarily livestock related, but other things like this that we can pilot, that we kind of develop a system for how we evaluate those pilot programs. And I think we have time over the next year to do that. But I think one of those things absolutely needs to be that our board and staff that are helping to make these ordinance revisions do tours of these homes where they have these, to see the operation as they've set it up and how things are going and that sort of thing. I mean, I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're informed, and the way to do that is to see the stuff in action, see it happening.
You can have field trips.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, exactly. So I do think that's a part of it that we definitely need to do. You know, and it'd be great to get input, folks that have it, to get input from those folks, how it went, as well as their neighbors, right? I mean, the hope would be that a lot of the folks that go through the process of the pilot program, that they've engaged, like Ms. Bloom's done, engage their neighbors, and you know, that their neighbors, even though they're not raising chickens, may understand what's going on and see and be able to have positive input on it. Or, you know, some may have negative. But we need to hear all that.
There's benefits to having a neighbor with fresh eggs, okay?
I'll
Just
add
saying.
that based on the recommended language, number one, the first piece, which is permit required, includes language that you have to have signatures of all your adjacent property owners. So that may also help with that issue of where you get calls of complaints of people not knowing what you're doing. You're gonna have to proactively have a conversation with your neighbor to be part of the pilot.
That's good. That's good. What is the permit based on? The number of chickens or just a flat fee per?
The permit fee has not been set yet. We would have to ask you whether you want to imply a permit fee, and we would have to add that to the schedule of fees. The permit form itself, they have to submit, and Kyle's going to help me get this drafted in the near future. But it would include a drawing of the lot showing us where the fencing goes, where the coop is going to be, how big the lot is, and therefore how many chickens they can have, etc.
Okay. Could I turn my utility building into a chicken coop?
I'm sorry?
Could I turn my utility building into a chicken coop?
As long as it meets the standards of the animals living in a healthy environment.
Okay.
So, decent floor, walls, a roof. Most people that raise chicken know they have to be kept warm in the wintertime.
Yeah, well, that's a problem.
Those kind of things. So, yeah. We'll become experts in chicken coops before it's all over.
Yeah, I don't have heat out there.
With the survey, is it a notice requirement that, hey, neighbor A, I'm doing this, I told you about it, right? Cool. Or is it neighbor A has to sign off on neighbor B having chickens? Because I don't know about that.
That may be asking a bit much.
Yeah.
This was a suggestion by your town manager, and I don't disagree with it. We drafted it so that it would be neighbors who are adjacent to actually where the chickens are being kept. And we would check that by GIS when they submit their permit as to which neighbors would have to sign off.
What does adjacency constitute?
Just like notifying contiguous neighbors for
Rezoning.
rezonings, thank you. It wouldn't be that elaborate because we're not asked, the chicken houses have to be in the backyard. Right. And therefore the guy that lives across the street in the front is not going to be exposed to chickens at all. So he doesn't get a say in it. The back of the house may back up to an alleyway, which is in all likelihood in Spencer what it backs up to. Depending on where the chickens in the backyard are going to be placed is whether we would require him to get that neighbor to sign off on it. In most cases, it's going to be the neighbors on the two sides and possibly in the rear. If a lot's undeveloped, if they're building next to the Standback Forest, I don't have a backyard neighbor. It backs up to the Grants Creek Greenway, Grants Creek floodplain. So I would have to get my two neighbors on the side to sign off on it.
I'm fine with the notice requirement. I just don't want someone's approval per se to be tied to approval.
Just because somebody doesn't like something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's.
If you'd like to drop that clause, it's entirely up to you.
Maybe change it to, I think just a notice. That way, again, and I think that helps with, hey, I'm part of this pilot program. I'm doing this. Don't get mad at me. That kind of thing.
Right.
And also they know if there is a legitimate complaint, they know how and to whom to lodge that to.
And that being the case, I think when that notice, this may be kind of accomplishing what we really wanted to, that we as the town develop some type of flyer that basically outlines the pilot program and the expectations of those participating and everything like that. That flyer is given when notice is given to those neighbors, that notice is given to the neighbors as well. So they understand the pilot program and what's being done.
How many lots are, I'm assuming it's probably many, how many lots are eliminated with the 50-foot requirement? I mean, most, 40%, I know that's probably hard math, but I'm assuming that's a lot.
With the 50-foot separation?
Yeah, the 50-foot from an occupied structure.
Well, again, let's say your lot is a 50 by 100 foot deep, which is a fairly standard lot size, and your house is built up on the front of it, and your neighbors are built up on the front of it, then you could probably get the 50-foot separation by moving the chickens farther back into the yard.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
There will be some that we'll have to say no to, and that's why we require the survey showing us exactly what they plan to do. And that may be the complaints you get next year is we want to keep chickens, but we can't do it based on your ordinance. Let's change the ordinance and make it a little easier. And maybe we'll take you guys on a tour to chicken coop and let you decide yourselves whether it's a
golf
good
cart
idea.
tour of the coop. Spencer's own twist.
Yeah. I love the idea of the pilot. Are there any? Because there's a chance that a year from now they say, no.
We tell them up front
Yeah.
that they're risking their money.
Okay.
And it may be revoked or terminated.
Are there any due process rights that attach to this? Again, we're telling them up front,
it's going to be written on the permit application, and they're going to sign it saying they understand it. So just like our driveway permits and everything else, they sign off on it.
Are these pictures that are being put up here, are they architectural plans?
Somebody's come up with some great pictures to show us what coops can look like.
Based on what Mike's showing us, I think he may go into the chicken coop business.
Hopefully my wife is not watching this tonight, or I'm in trouble.
Board, any other questions at this point?
You think we can get Bojangles, Chick-fil-A, and Kentucky Fried Chicken to help with some pilot program signs?
It's cruel to talk about her having to re-owner her chickens.
We're sorry.
I had a better solution for that.
We're sorry about your other chickens. Yeah. Welcome to Spencer.
Can you get yours back?
They're just like pets, so we all love our pets.
Very much so. Okay, so board, you have the staff recommendation in front of you for consideration. We've heard about one requested text change regarding notice as opposed to having to get approval from neighbors for this pilot program. But beyond that, are there any other questions, any other discussion? And if not, we will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 24-17, allowing this pilot program for a period of 1 year.
I want to thank our citizens and you coming up with this and getting it so organized so quick. And I would like to make a motion that we approve the pilot.
Okay, with the one text change that we discussed. Okay, so there's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Second from Ms. Moody. Any further discussion on this item? All right, all in favor of the pilot program? Okay, all opposed? All right, so that is 5-4 and 1 against. The motion is approved.
A year from now, you can tell she told us so.
That's right. I'm safe. I can go home tonight.
Yeah, he could go home tonight.
All right, the next item is to consider adopting resolution 24-11, directing the town clerk to investigate the Lincoln Avenue annexation petition.
And we have a presentation for the annexation. We discussed this from a slightly different perspective at your last meeting, having to do with the reason that they were having to ask us for permission to extend the water line, because that's our agreement with SRU in the ETJ. That led to us asking them would they request voluntary annexation. And because they're a Charlotte developer and everything in Charlotte is in the city limits, they said, sure, it's no problem, we don't care. So there are the 10 lots. It may soon be 12 lots. Two lots are being auctioned off on the courthouse steps. The developer's aware of that and is going to go try to buy those other 2 lots. There may be 2 more lots involved in this. You see the dotted line that shows our existing municipal limits. This is an aerial view showing where the lots are and the fact that they're just wooded, undeveloped lots at this time. There are a few homes in there. From our previous discussion, you see those yellow lines going up and down. Those are unopened road right-of-ways that access some other properties back in there. So that goes to the previous decision you made earlier tonight. This was the Washington Heights subdivision, 1903. That's the earliest one I've ever seen. So that was a subdivision out on Grants Creek. If you look at the current map of Grants Creek, they straightened it and took that bow out of it. So these maps predate the straightening of Grants Creek. This is the map, the developer's map, showing what he's going to have to do on the water line to increase the size to serve those lots. There is a fire hydrant located on the existing 6-inch main that would adequately serve these and other lots in that area. We did a cost analysis of the property tax generated, the solid waste collection fees generated, and a rough estimate of the sales tax generated when these homes are completed and occupied. We also met with all of our department heads to discuss the cost of providing services, and because you can see the green area that we currently provide services to versus the blue area that's being annexed, the cost of extending services one more block out is minimal. So all the department heads said they saw no problem with the annexation. The last question that we always ask ourselves is, are we going in the right direction? And a part of our comprehensive plan was recognizing that our residential growth would move to the northwest from the current downtown area on the other side of Grants Creek into our ETJ. So this area, it makes sense to annex as we have opportunities in this area to tie the existing town to our new growth areas. And that's it. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. What you're here tonight to do is the normal paperwork routine that y'all become expert at. Your first action will be, if you want to proceed with this, is actually to ask the clerk to investigate the completeness of the petition. I'll leave it to y'all to discuss.
Board, any questions at this point in the process? Again, this is typical for our annexations that we've been looking at, that we do due diligence to investigate the petition and then receive the certificate of sufficiency, have a public hearing, and then the board will consider action on the annexation request. So any questions at this point?
Is there any problem with having areas between our property that's annexed and property that's not annexed? I mean, I know we've talked about contiguous over on the Long Prairie Road side.
Contiguous is better. Satellite is certainly okay. It's part of the statute, allows us to do satellite annexations. There is some language in the annexation regulations that tell you if you're going to annex part of a subdivision, you need to annex all of it. And the logic being is you don't want to cherry pick the nice homes in a subdivision and annex those and leave the junky homes unannexed. In this case, the attorney and the manager and I and school government went into a study mode and tried to figure out exactly what that statute meant. In our opinion, our group opinion, that part of the annexation statute applies to going forward, new subdivisions. It doesn't apply to something that's platted in 1903. But to answer your question more specifically, it would be great if we could annex all of this land. We don't want to have donut holes of unserved areas. On the northeast side of town, that's our goal. And most of those have been large industrial, commercial type annexations. And the Fisher land property will be another donut hole that will close in the near future, I hope. So it is, to answer your question, there's nothing really wrong with the satellite annexation. We hope to fill in the blanks as we move forward through the year.
The only other issue with satellite annexations, obviously, is you're having to provide services farther out.
Right.
This case is a little different in that it's a block
Very
away
close,
from our existing service
yeah.
area. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt Resolution 24-11, which directs the town clerk to investigate this annexation petition?
I move to move forward with this study for annexation.
So there is a motion from Ms. Sledge.
Second.
Second from Mr. Miller. All in favor? All right, all opposed? All right. So that resolution is passed, and now the town clerk is going to present us with a certificate of sufficiency.
Because she's so efficient, she anticipated y'all doing it.
She's good.
Yes, I did the due diligence and worked with Mr. Blunt and determined that this what's it called?
Petition.
Oh my gosh.
Petition.
It is petition. Okay, that it is sufficient.
Okay. So you have the findings from the clerk in your packet. You will have the certificate of sufficiency. No action on that from the board. We just received that as we had directed the clerk to prepare that. So we will move to adoption, consideration of adoption for Resolution 24-12, which sets the public hearing date for this annexation request. And Mr. Blunt, I will let you summarize that.
In most cases, y'all allow me to set the public hearing dates, and we do it on the next available pre-agenda night. The statute for annexation requires that the board adopt a resolution setting the date, so we have to do it this way. So we have entered into that resolution. The date of your August pre-agenda meeting is the public hearing date.
Okay. Board, any questions on that?
Does the planning board have to approve this prior to?
Planning board has already seen this and recommended approval.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 24-12 that sets that public hearing date for our next pre-agenda meeting in August?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Moody.
Second.
Second from Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right. All opposed? That's approved unanimously. All right. Departmental reports. Mr. Blunt.
I was getting ready to sit down. You have my written report in hand. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Blunt on his planning report? Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Harris.
Kyle has something to say.
So there are 2 events next week that I want to make an announcement about. The first on Tuesday, July 16th, there is a delegation from Monroe, the city of Monroe, coming to Spencer, and I wanted to give you an update about that and invite y'all to participate if you choose to do so. So the city of Monroe, they have a councilwoman by the name of Sirluda Anthony, who is heading a neighborhood revitalization committee called the Winchester Revitalization Committee. And through that process, they are trying to identify they're trying to identify a strategy to revitalize a specific neighborhood in Monroe based around a railroad history program. And I'm being vague just because I don't have much information about it. But essentially, the city of Monroe anticipates having a certain amount of funding from a donor/philanthropist to investigate opportunities for that city to develop a revitalization strategy around the railroad. So they do have a delegation, including many of their staff people, their city manager, and some of their elected officials who are coming to Spencer to tour the Transportation Museum. They anticipate getting to the museum at around 11:30, and then the museum staff will let them tour that facility. And then the vision is that we would host them here at Town Hall at approximately 2 o'clock to do sort of an informal, sort of peer-to-peer jurisdiction meet and greet / informal roundtable. So it's not going to be particularly formal. The idea is just for us to meet with their delegation to provide them some information about Spencer and our railroad history and our connections to the railroad and the museum and how we sort of utilize that as part of our town's branding and economic development, etc. Again, there is still a lot of information about their project, which I don't have as many details as I would like. I think they're still trying to get their program in order about what they're doing. But the main thing to know is that they will be in Spencer next Tuesday, and we should expect them to be at Town Hall at around 2 o'clock for some kind of informal get-together. So I invite anyone and everyone to attend that meeting. I will be there. I think I was talking to Kelly Alexander, and I think I got sucked into going to the museum with them as well. So I think I'll be with them all Tuesday. But basically, yeah, if you're interested, let me know. You can show up.
I'll plan to get it down.
Okay. Again, I think that they would just like to talk to y'all about the railroad and about economic development and tourism.
We should see the plans for our mural.
That would be good. Any questions about that? All right. Thanks. And the next item, I did want to let y'all know, the town will be hosting a free home ownership workshop next Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. here in the boardroom. We did provide a story in the newsletter about that, but Danelle Cutting, who is a mortgage banker with Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group, and realtor Melissa Quick from Key Real Estate will be leading that workshop, which will provide a lot of information about home ownership and the home buying process, especially geared towards first-time homeowners. And they'll cover topics like credit scores, budgeting, managing debt, savings, income and property taxes, insurance, and more. But I think it would be a great thing, especially for young people like myself who are stuck in renting, to try to figure out what we're going to do about home ownership. And especially the information about North Carolina down payment assistance. They will be talking about the $15,000 down payment program that is geared towards first-time homebuyers. And there will be light hors d'oeuvres and trivia. It should be a lot of fun. Any questions about that?
Is that down payment assistance? I've heard of that, but I thought it came from the cities that where you were buying a home. Is there a state program that makes that home
Yes, so down payment is a sort of complex phenomenon. There are lots of cities who provide their own contribution, and there are a variety of funding sources that provide certain homeowners who are buying in certain places some additional assistance. But this is for the overall North Carolina Housing Down Payment Assistance Program, which, to the best of my knowledge, comes from North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but it is available, $15,000 anywhere in the state.
Any other questions for me?
And you said that last event, the homeowner workshop, is going to be at Thursday at 6 p.m.?
Yes, next Thursday, the 18th at 6 o'clock p.m. here in this room.
Appreciate you working with them to
Thanks,
get
Kyle.
that scheduled. That's a great educational opportunity for our community.
Yes, it is.
And that's all for me.
All right, thank you, sir.
Do you want to say anything about the dragon boat?
Okay. I thought I could get away. So, yes, I am team captain this year of Spencer's Dragon Boat team. We have had a little bit more difficulty than in past years getting our roster filled out, but I think we will be able to make it. We primarily right now, we need to make sure that we are getting the gender ratio correct. We need a certain number of female rowers on the boat. I think it's 7, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
8.
Minimum of 8.
Minimum of
16 paddlers, and it's however you progress. I believe you're supposed to be half and half.
So anyone and everyone is invited to participate this year. If you are interested, or you know someone who's interested, potentially maybe a younger person, male or female, who may be interested, just put them in touch with me.
14 or over, right?
I believe that's correct.
The drummer can be 12, I think.
Yeah. And we do
have the drummer can be 12, I think. 12 years, I think. You have a drummer?
Rylan, who's been our drummer for some time, did express interest in doing it again. But then he also expressed his willingness to be a rower this year. And I do think Chief Lanning's son had also expressed interest in maybe being our drummer this year. So all of that's still being worked out. I'm working on it.
And the waivers.
We'll get there.
The waivers, the deadline for waivers is the 12th.
What did I say in my email? Whatever that was.
Friday at
I think it's the 12th.
Friday at 7. Yeah.
Yeah, and the online waiver is acceptable, right? You don't
Yes.
have to have a hard copy.
So I've already sent out the online waiver to the people I know are committed, but any of the additional members will need them to sign their electronic waiver as well.
Okay.
I will circle back on this week. I was gone most of last week on vacation, so I'm still trying to catch up on where we are right now with our roster. But I will be moving forward on that to make sure that we can compete.
Can you let us know, can you send an email to the board to let us know how many we still need?
Yes.
That way we can know who to go after.
Yeah.
So that we have a winning
I will do
team.
that.
You did? Yeah. I think I have at least one more.
Okay. Yeah. Get in touch with me.
Yeah. I think I emailed you about it. Yeah.
Any other questions about the Dragon Boat? It's going to be fun.
You're doing a great job recruiting.
Thanks, Kyle. Good job.
It's my first time as team captain, and it is hard to get everything coordinated. But
You're doing
we're
an
working on
excellent
it.
job.
We're working on it.
Are we dressing any particular fashion?
So we do. So let me say this: we do have a really cool logo this year, which I was hoping to print on the T-shirts. But then I was worried we wouldn't even have enough members to have T-shirts, so I didn't want to spend the money. So I'm going to encourage people to wear a specific color, like maybe green. Maybe next year we can get the
You gotta
T-shirts.
get the T-shirts.
We don't have T-shirts this year.
Okay.
Sorry to end on a low note.
No, I can do T-shirts.
Charlotte's got a great dinosaur costume. Looks kind of like a dragon. I might just wear it the head at least.
Last year we had body paint. I think we painted Rylan all the way up with the body paint and the sequins, and maybe we can do that this year in lieu of formal uniform.
Very good. Thanks for leading that, Kyle.
Thank you.
Wait, could I clarify one more chicken issue? I'm sorry.
Chicken issues.
The permit cost was brought up, and
Yes.
therefore I would feel obligated to bring it back to you for approval if we're going to charge a permit fee. there'll probably be people that will want to apply before your next meeting. If I could suggest these 12 people are going to be your guinea pigs, they're going to invest a lot of money not knowing whether they're going to get it back. So I would suggest there'd be no fee for the pilot program.
I was gonna say, if there were a fee, it should only cover if we were gonna do some type of sign or something like that as part of the pilot program.
We'll figure that part out.
Yeah.
I think we could get one of those little chicken statue things that you get at Tractor Supply and put it in their front
Well,
yard.
so I was in Hendersonville for a day last week, and you know, they have the bears that everybody paints. I think it'd be great to have the chickens that everybody paints. Quirky.
Quirky.
Quirky chicken.
Okay.
That's your adjective.
But now we're getting funky could be your slogan for the Dragon Boat Festival. I'm hearing a chant starting already.
Or it could be, we're all chickens.
What?
All right, so I think I heard consensus, no fee for this pilot program at this point. All right, code enforcement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board.
Good
evening.
I provided the monthly code enforcement report. I'll answer all your code questions unless they're related to chickens. We're going to try to bypass that.
That'll be on your list soon enough.
That's right. Really, in a serious note, I would like to brag on our code officer. I know he's really been hitting the ground working hard. And I wanted to point something out to you that I think is pretty important. If you actually look, not at the summary page, it's got the graphic on it, but if you look at the case status report, you flip over to the group that shows open. If you look at how long they've been open, they're all very recent. And what I want to point out about that is that means he's doing what we've asked him to do. He's really trying to concentrate on that Monday, Tuesday building cases, and then giving them a week to comply and going back and make contact with them again the following week on his Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's keeping from us seeing that backlog go way out. So he's actually making pretty good numbers. I believe it was about 40 cases this month. So that's pretty good for him, you know, as far as going out and working with the people to correct the problem. So we're trying not to just go out and hand out fines and make everybody's life bad. It's probably going to be going to a lien status where we've just got people that just refuse to comply, and we've had to bill them and abate the property and whatnot. But overall, we're getting very good response from everybody. He's doing a really good job, so I wanted to give him an attaboy up here. But I will try to answer any questions you may have about code enforcement this month.
So I do have one question. You mentioned the liens. You know, I know previously with our previous code enforcement officer, we were typically each month approving a few liens to be filed through the court.
Right.
What is we haven't done that recently, so what's the update with that process?
I'm gonna have to defer Steve on that. I've never had to do it myself. These will be the first 4 that I've had to have.
So we just haven't had any.
Yeah, we haven't had any. Okay. Yeah, we've been very fortunate on actually getting. You know, we've either got voluntary compliance or we've done a bill, and some people actually have paid some of them, and their liens have been removed. So we do have you know, we've got a list of outstanding liens, obviously, that we maintain a list, and then as we receive payment on it, we file the paperwork and remove the lien off the property. So this will actually be the first ones that I've had to have any hand in. So I'm going to be feeling my way through it also.
I just wanted to be sure that we had not been missing those.
Right. No. Yeah. We just haven't had to do it recently. So yeah, I believe that 4 is going to be the first ones that we've had to do anytime recently. Those are stemming from about the last 3 months. So.
Yeah, some of those old liens that we were looking at were the same person over and over and over and over again. I think that maybe the owner was deceased and family members weren't in compliance.
Yeah, well, you know, we've got a couple properties like that where either that or effectively the family has no interest in the property, and then the estate winds up having to sell it when the property is sold. So if the family has no interest in it, you know, for the betterment of the entire community, after we've asked over and over and over, we wind up abating it. And some of those properties may actually wind up have to be brought before the board to be declared a nuisance. So we're really working. If you remember last month, we talked about how we were really going to target 10 of our worst offenders. And a few of those are vacant properties where people are just, they really don't have any interest in the property. They seldom come to town, and when they do, they're not coming here to clean it up. So we're winding up cleaning up for them. So.
One of the other things I know, you know, we have been working towards several properties along Salisbury Avenue here that, you know, with retaining wall issues or, you know, that others that have been damaged.
Right.
and things that have been condemned. So I guess, what is the plan for kind of getting some of those remedied? I mean, it sounds to me like those may be some of the ones we have to take action on.
Yeah, unfortunately, a few of them are. There's a few, well, there's also a few of them that are in foreclosure process and whatnot. I personally spoke to a few of the individuals that are involved with some of the parcels that you're mentioning. I really just haven't got a response from them, so I'm not sure the direction to go. But those would be ones that ultimately we may have to go that direction if we don't.
Those right now are some of the town's biggest eyesores, just because they're on the main thoroughfare, you know, and they've sat that way for quite some time now.
Definitely. And I think that's something you'll probably, we'll probably bring it to you in the next few months as we kind of progress. He's still on the learning curve. I am too, as far as supervising code enforcement, because covering that up, I had no idea what I was doing with code enforcement. So I'm feeling my way through it also. But as we kind of work through there, and we've really got the backlog down, so we worked really hard to get that down. So now we're kind of concentrating on starting with some of those repeat offenders and nuisance properties.
Just food for thought, and this is a conversation that I've been wanting to bring up, but I think this is now a good time. He's now in. We're now talking about this. Some of these properties that have serious, either abatement issues or, we've been mowing and or cleaning up, 3 or 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 times, however long it is. And like you mentioned, it's the same person over and over and over again. I think something to think about moving forward is how we, as a town, approach that. And I say that because, what can happen with the city liens if they, I guess at some point, if they begin to build up, it actually becomes a detriment in and of itself because, for example, with tax foreclosure, in some cases those liens share the same priority with the taxes, which means that the entity, in this case the tax office, there becomes less incentive to move on it because they're going to do all the work and get a smaller piece of the pie, if that makes sense. Because that, a property needs that kind of abatement is only going to sell for so much in any event. It's not going to be even in this market, that's going to be capped.
I believe we've actually got one like that now.
Yeah.
Not so much because of our liens against it, but just because the property value is low enough that the liens and back taxes that are on it now, nobody wants to mess with it. Which is very unfortunate for the community because then you have no buyer, so it just sits.
And it gets worse.
And it gets worse.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's a very fluid situation. We're going to have to try to feel our way through on what's going to be the best option. And obviously our goal each time is to try to help them gain compliance. And that's actually a conversation I had last week with one of the property owners. I actually just happened to see him at a restaurant and sit down and talk to him. And, that was kind of my conversation is what can we do to help you gain compliance so you can sell your property? They don't want it. They're not taking care of it. What can we do to help you fix your property? Because as soon as you do anything that we can sign off that's in compliance, we're going to do it. And that would be something we'd have to bring to the board. If there's, I'm assuming there should be, or there could be times that we could just voluntarily cancel liens for the betterment of the community. We could voluntarily say we're going to cancel the lien, I believe, and go that direction. I think that would be the board's right. I think just because we file it doesn't mean we can't cancel it. So that would be something that we may look into on a few of those. The ones that really do not have the means to fix the property and don't have the means to sell the property, but that's gonna be something I have to defer to the experts on.
Well, I see Jay and Steve's wheels already turning.
It may not be possible. So I'm gonna let you just take the podium because these are the experts.
Jay's on
It's important to recognize that we go through a statutory process when we try to go in and fix the problems. And when we request payment and they don't pay us, we file the lien to protect us, to get our money back. And unfortunately, it doesn't get your money back until that person wants to sell the property. If enough, before I even go that, James had been working with the tax office and had told them basically, if you have somebody interested in buying the property, let us know. If the liens are an impediment to purchasing the property and redeveloping it, he would bring it to the board to ask you to forgive the liens so that the sale could go forward. And then, of course, the last process, and we would have to get Jay involved in this, if it's a continuing problem that's not getting fixed, you condemn the property, you tear it down at the town's cost. And then you try to recoup the cost and the town ends up owning the lot. And that's a long, laborious process in the courts, but it can be done. We don't want to get into the property business any more than we have to. But that is one solution to hopefully just a small handful of projects that we just can't get fixed any other way. That's sort of the nuclear option, tear it down and take ownership of the property. So the processes are there, they're just cumbersome and long-term and long time, and Jay's gonna have to handle most of it because it's legal stuff. And I can talk like a lawyer, but he's, you know.
And you were complaining about not having enough work to do. I was complaining about something else.
You misheard me.
I can't believe it.
But I'm glad to know what you heard. No, it's actually interesting. One of the concepts that the town could consider is depending on the location of the lot. So if you look at it just as, is the lot valuable? I mean, would somebody be interested in buying the lot if the lot was cleared? And what the county is considering, and they've started to work on, is they actually budget money now in the planning department to help abate problem properties. And so we can go in, we can go through our process, we can abate the issue, we can go in and demolish a structure, file the lien, foreclose, and then try to get it into a productive hand, and then recover your money through that process. You're not guaranteed 100% return on it, but your process is moving property into productive hands. And so that's just a long-term concept that is a planning retreat kind of discussion, is to say, what do you want to do with these long-term? Because if you want to identify, you know, maybe we budget, you know, $30,000 a year and we can do 4 or 5 properties this way and see how it goes. It's something certainly to consider long-term. But yes, we can work with owners to release liens for the fines that have accumulated if it's an impediment to a sale. And I think the way the foreclosures work is, if there are people interested in the property, then they'll move forward with a foreclosure. If the taxes aren't paid and there are liens accumulated, we just need an interested buyer to express an interest.
And I think that's where we just need to be able to make sure that when we have those situations, that we're making those properties attractive to somebody that wants to come in and either fix up or build new. Because I think what we're seeing right now is we've got some properties that just continue to sit in the same state.
Sure.
Time over time, we're doing our job, right? But they're not doing it, and a lot of them don't have a means to do anything with it, or don't have an interest in doing anything with it. So we've got to be a little more proactive, I think, with how we address those, not from an enforcement standpoint, but from how do we flip those properties over?
Sure.
So that they're actually beneficial, used beneficially.
And if there are owners that just don't want the property and they're not going to do anything, you can have conversations with them. Say, I mean, if it's a property that you think you can work with, you think you can abate the issue and clean the lot up and then remarket it, certainly could consider them just, if they own the property and it's not a complicated title, is they could just deed it to the town and then you clear it up and then remarket it and sell it. But I think Steve made a good point. You don't want that to be your opening idea that you're getting into the property business. Yeah.
Okay. Good input. Thank y'all.
I feel much better that Steve wasn't shaking his head. I was worried. I couldn't see. I was kind of going off my cuff on my limited knowledge about cancellation of liens. I was worried there was a left and right instead of an agreeant shaking back there. So.
You said it with such confidence.
It sounded really good.
No one was going to correct.
I have canceled a total of 2 so far, so I've got that much experience on it.
Any other questions on code enforcement? If not, we'll switch over to the police department report.
Wonderful, something I can actually talk about. Well, I provided the monthly reports for both the PD and the ACE team. Numbers continue to rise, but that's just hard work. Now, let's say that we're going into some sort of crime wave, but 3,146 activities this month. So if you remember, there were times when it was down around 1,000 or less. So we're definitely out working hard. So we continued, obviously, all of the standard stuff. Our normal school checks and whatnot continue even throughout the off time, which we've had summer school, and the officers have been tied up in that. Our SROs work with summer school with the summer program, so they're still logging school checks in like they would. Obviously park checks and whatnot, the normal, what we consider the standard day-to-day operations. Nothing really outstanding, bad to speak about this past month. Normal month. We've assisted Solid Grey a few times on a couple of their multi-agency events. I believe we had about 70 times that we assisted East Spencer on some call volume this past month. So the guys are staying busy and they're doing a really good job, and I'm very happy with them. But I can definitely answer any questions you may have.
Shots fired?
Nothing that was related per se to us. They still do tend to come in, and I would anticipate, I have not actually pulled the numbers for July 4th to see how many we got. I anticipate this coming month you will see a lot higher on there because it'll always be dispatched that way based on people with fireworks. So it'll be a lot higher. But
sorry, that fentanyl number is 0.
Yeah, that's well. I will say, I hate to say that's probably kind of a false number. The ACE team, both of them took some much needed time off this month, so I had about 2 or 3 weeks where they were not all here working together. So the numbers are a little bit lower for the ACE team than what they typically are. So it's definitely not that the problem is went away. They get 3 firearms off the streets this past weekend, so they're back hitting it full force again. So, those numbers will be back up next month. But good to have a 0 for 1 month, honestly.
Very good. Any other questions? And I'll just say to your team as well as Chief Lanning's team for the public safety that we provided for fireworks show. Fireworks show I thought was great. Glad that we could help and participate with that. Thank y'all for your teams working that.
Hopefully nobody heard any negatives about the traffic control. It went all outstanding this year.
Oh, it was. I thought it was fantastic.
The flow out of the parking lot. It really went good this year. Now we're gonna have to feel our way through it next year because I think we'll be choked down to not having 2 lanes each direction. So we're gonna have to change it a little bit this coming year. But the idea of only right turns out when everybody leaves worked out really good. So it kept everybody in a real fluid movement. We were able to empty the parking lot out in about a quarter of the time of last year's. Pretty good.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, Chief Lanning, Fire Department.
Mayor and Board, hello again. You've got my written report before you, and be glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, sir. Board, any questions?
Is the U-759, is that the truck?
That is the red F1, the 2020 F-150 that was involved in the accident. They have the structure fire, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
How's your fire camp coming?
Good. We're ready to get it started.
Good.
Nice. Notices went out earlier this week.
Yes.
We, I think 11 children. So.
11? That's great.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I was going to call you about therapy dog, and then I realized I was going to be out of the state. I was pretty depressed about it.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, I was bummed. I wanted to come to fire camp.
And then I did want to point out the engineer and firefighter badge pinning ceremony that will be the 26th here in the boardroom at 6:30. If any of you would wish to attend.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right, next is our Finance Department.
Public Works.
Sorry. I forgot Joel.
He's going to the parking lot.
Heather's just sitting back there, cool as a cucumber, like, not me.
Switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Very good. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Our regular services are running on schedule. I just want to note and make an announcement to remind citizens that all loose material needs to be in bags for pickup. We've had several issues on Salisbury Avenue. We've got one of them actually taken care of. We're working on another one, but, and the thunderstorms don't like it when you stack that stuff in the curbs. So it ends up in catch basins, roads ends up flooding, and we all end up in the street. So, just a reminder. Most of this month would be, keeping routine services running. We've had 2 guys out on medical leave. One has returned. My trash truck driver is back. He started back yesterday. So that position has been fulfilled, and with 2 positions open. So that's been most of it. I'd like to thank my guys for that, because they have really stepped up and put themselves in positions that really they're not. We've trained them for them, but they're doing over and above. So I'm conducting interviews for the mechanic position. I have 2 applications for it, and I have 1 for the labor foreman's position. So we're in the process of moving forward with those, and hopefully get those taken care of. So a huge thank you to Brian Moore. He's a retired gentleman from Salisbury who filled in for Sam while he was out. So I've had him for 6 weeks now, just Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But he has really helped out, so that's really good. I think Duke Energy is finished with the tree trimming portion, but I noticed today, and I talked to a few gentlemen, didn't give me a whole lot of information, but they're replacing poles and doing some grid work around the library, all the way down Yadkin.
Yeah, down 4th Street.
Okay, on 4th Street. So they'll be in town for, they said, several weeks.
Yeah.
Replacing lines, poles, that kind of stuff. So just kind of be on the lookout for them. I don't think they're doing only necessary trimming that they would need to do, but I think the trimming portion has moved out of town, out towards Ellis Crossroads.
So I got a question. We found that out just because we saw them here doing that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Can we contact our Duke Energy rep to make sure that when they're in town doing stuff like, I mean, that's, when they're doing the line work, that's significant stuff when they're replacing poles and things like that, so that we can at least put it on our website and social media so that folks know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
They're in my neighborhood now, and I can't get out and I can't get in.
Yeah.
I mean,
at least
it
so
is
people have a
frustrating.
heads
It
up.
is frustrating when you don't know where they're going to be,
Right.
and
I agree.
it's a really good point if they could tell you where they're going to be and what streets are going to be closed to local traffic only, because they've been in my neighborhood for 2 weeks, and I have to find a new way out every day. It is frustrating. Very good point to make.
I have a question. Yeah, I had a note from them on my door that they were going to trim in my yard and ask about did I want mulch, and I called and I moved stuff so that when they cut limbs they wouldn't break my pots.
Right, but they've not.
But they haven't done anything in my yard. So, are they going to or are they not?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
I mean,
on
I
Charles
can.
Street.
All we can do is, we can contact them, and from when they were here, I don't think Charles Street was actually on the grid.
They
on
did
that map that he showed, I don't think Charles Street was one that they were actually doing any trimming on.
Well, there was a door hanger on my door one day when I came home.
Okay.
And I know they trimmed the street, I think it's North Yadkin, that's comes by the cemetery.
Well,
And they were trimming on that street, I think, but they didn't come down Charles, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Of course, all this work's being done by contractors that they've hired, but still, I mean, there's got to be some better communication that they can provide to us so we can communicate that to residents.
Yeah, we knew when they showed up yesterday. That's the first day. And actually, I only saw one pole, so I thought maybe they were just fixing something.
Yeah.
But then a whole nother load of poles came in this morning.
When they've got them all out.
And they're all here in the parking lot. So I started asking a few questions, but of course, the guys on the ground really, hey, we're supposed to be doing this. And they're a contractor. They're not. I don't get the answer.
They told me they were replacing the old poles on 4th Street.
Okay. On 4th?
On 4th.
Okay.
That's
4th only?
No, they just said 4th Street because they were.
Okay. Because they were on
doing something
Jack
from the
today
church and everything.
between
I don't know.
6th and 7th.
Might be a different crew. Might be a different crew.
It's the same
Is it
people.
Same
It's
Right.
Lee
Right.
Energy.
The signs on the trucks I saw said Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T.
Okay, but the ones
It's
I
two
saw.
of
Oh,
those.
yeah, the
Lee.
cone trucks, the right cone trucks have been out.
Okay, yeah, Wright's your traffic control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Lee Energy, I believe is who's doing it, big white trucks, I'm not sure. But I'll find out something about Charles Street, let me contact the gentleman.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
the
I'd
tree
like to
trimming.
put my stuff back where it goes
Okay.
in the shade instead of having it sit in the hot sun.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it's hot
I'll
even in the
contact
shade,
him.
so.
Do what?
It's hot even in the shade.
Well, I know, but
It's
it's
hot
getting
everywhere.
sunburned.
Yeah, it's for sure it's hot everywhere.
Do we
but-
have any information about when the paving is gonna be done?
That is an excellent question also, have you heard anything? No, I haven't
Well,
either.
the last we heard when, in May, was
July.
don't expect them back till after the 4th, but, so we can ask again, but
Yeah, let's follow up.
Okay.
Because there again, that's another one where we need to give folks enough lead time that they know a couple
We
weeks
tried
in
to.
advance, at least, yeah.
we tried to in April and that didn't
Well, right,
pan out.
right. And unfortunately, what
Excellent
happens
lead
is we've
time.
got all these other folks and providers in doing this work, and then, we get blamed for it. So the least we can do is communicate what we know and, find out what we can and communicate it and let folks know who's actually doing the work. And a phone number they can call. That's not ours.
That's not, agreed. So sure. So, I'll find out some more information about that and I'll let you know, whether they're gonna be in the area, but, I was told that they have moved out, so pretty much the trimming's done at this point. We will be over the next several weeks, we are gonna be getting back, now that my trash truck driver's back, we are gonna be doing the transition back to the 4-day. And with some of the annexations that Steve's doing, it's actually gonna work out really well. So we'll be transitioning, we'll get something together, it'll go out on the media first before we actually do it. I've got tags ready to put on the cans and doors. We'll talk to as many neighbors, but during the daytime, it's kind of hard to catch the neighbors, our citizens, but we'll do our best to get in contact with them, even if we have to stay late one day and do it, just kind of make a run through. Some of Tuesday will go to Wednesday. Won't be a big transition because it's really only one street and some back areas. It'll be the Wednesday to Thursday that'll be the bigger front, which will be more up in yours and Mr. Muhammad's neighborhood. All of that will transition to Thursday. So, but we'll let everybody know there'll be something put out, and then we'll move, and so that'll be coming in the next several weeks. Really nothing else on the dam other than the still kind of waiting to hear for our grant application to see what's going on with it, and then we can kind of make plans on what it's going to cost to take care of that situation. And the CCAP, I sent Chris a message earlier today because I know they got a meeting with their board as far as the extension, but I've not heard back from him. So if I hear something back, I'll post. I'll send it to the town manager and let him send it out as far as what the plans are with him. So we did complete 6 abatements this month, just to reiterate on what he did. So Preston has sent us 6. 5 of those, I believe, were mowings. One of them was actually just a cleaning on our property on Salisbury Avenue. So I'll answer any questions you may have.
All right. Questions for you?
Mayor, if I might,
What?
I came out to see your mural artist a couple weeks ago, Earl Thompson. And some days it is about the small stuff, and I just want to commend Joel for being so supportive of that program. She's my sister-in-law, and she's out there hanging from a bucket 50 feet in the air on one of your trucks, but Joel goes through the safety with her. He gets everything staged out there for her, and he really makes those projects work. And so as a brother-in-law, I thank you for looking after Earl, and but you would have done that for anybody, and some days it is about the small stuff, Joel, and I appreciate you being kind and supporting her and supporting that program for the town. Yeah, it's really good stuff.
Awesome.
Earl's a pleasure to work with.
And I'd like to add to that too, because I had two neighbors that got in touch with me about logs stacked up in their yards that the tree companies didn't take, and they weren't able to move them. And he did send his team when they had the dump truck there to get those logs for them, and is working on getting a hedge trimmed up a little bit too. The part that you can do.
Yeah.
And it did it within a week. They were amazed.
Well,
Great service.
And I have to say too that, yeah, I guess I didn't get my my garbage can rolled out early enough because you have your new guy who's back and he's running the route differently.
Right.
And so I actually had somebody come, and I guess it was today,
It was.
and got my garbage. So thank you. I hate to, hate to be.
Well, this is brag on Mr. Taylor night, because I was going to tell you I was on some online forum for Spencer that was a positive forum, but you know how things go. And then someone hyped up, Joel Taylor is a saint in the comment section. And I didn't know this individual, but I was like, well, I'll bring that feedback
That was
back
probably
to him.
Joel that posted that under a different.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that feedback back to you, that you're very well known in this community and very well appreciated, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work that your team does. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Heather, it is now time for the finance report.
Last but never least.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, you have my report in front of you. I did not put notes on there this time. I just highlighted some of the accounts that were over, just because we are in the middle of year end, or it's after year ends, and we're trying to get things, just kind of cleaned up with some of the accounts that were over. Nothing really stands out that we are concerned about. But if you have any questions, I will try to answer those.
All right. Board, any questions on the finance report? All right.
I will let you know that the auditors were here the 17th, 18th, and 19th. I think those are the dates. I don't remember. But we have all the preliminary stuff to them, and the audit is underway. So, yep. Everything looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
All right, and finally, our library report.
Good evening. So the past month, and then also going through next week, has been the Wild Wild West summer reading program at the library, which is what the June library report is focused on. And our librarian, Ms. McCraw, she had several different programs that throughout this that covered different aspects of the Wild West. So there was somebody, I apologize if I mispronounce any names, but I believe it's Evan Burleson, who came to show the children gold mining and speak about Gold Hill and Charlotte, the gold mining that was done there. Then Ramona Big Eagle, who is a native Tuscaroran, she came and spoke to the children about the Cherokee and Tuscarora cultures. And she told them stories and showed them various artifacts, and actually several local adults also came to that program. And then John Sundell came, and he was a former storyteller. He is a storyteller and a former, I'm really struggling tonight, sorry guys. Former children's librarian, and he spoke to the children about the cowboy's life, things like how they only made $100 for 5 months of work, and showed them various pictures of cattle drives and chuck wagons. And he also told them a story about the African American U.S. Marshal named Bass Reeves, and he made balloon animals for them. And then this isn't in the report, but I wanted to mention that today, actually, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing names, but Lash Toru, he's a national cowboy champion, and he came and he sang songs and told stories and demonstrated some cowboy tricks for the children. And then next Tuesday at 3 p.m. is the final program, and there will be a visit from Saving Grace Farms that day. Saving Grace Farms. And I haven't been able to do much looking into it, but it appears it's a therapeutic farm.
Horse farm.
Horses.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is actually a little near and dear to me because I volunteered on a therapeutic horse farm at one point in my younger days.
Kids and veterans.
Yes.
Mhm.
I used to take some of my kids out there and mentor. It's nice.
All right. Board, any questions on the library report?
No, but I love all these activities that she's doing. I think it's wonderful.
All right. Town manager report, Mr. Franzese.
Okay. I'm always happy to be the caboose in our train of the agenda. And that the one thing I'll mention that will be of interest is we had a pre-bid meeting today. Alderwoman Sledge was in attendance for our town park project. That bid opportunity is out right now. We're going to do a bid opening on August 1st at 2 p.m. We had 5 general contractors represented at the pre-bid meeting today, which was good. We think there may be an additional one that is interested and just wasn't able to make it today. So that's a really good starting place. We feel pretty good about that process. And but yeah, we'll be doing that August 1st, and the goal is to, on your August agenda, have a contract to award that project.
So remind us again, what time is that bid opening on the 1st?
2 p.m. There were a lot of good questions asked, mostly by one of the people in attendance had a long list of good questions, and everybody else got to hear the answers and benefit from that. So.
All right. Board, any questions? All right. We will move now to comments from the board, and we'll start with Ms. Sledge tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to say welcome back, Sam, from your crew, and thank you for the special attention I got, which I didn't intend to get. It was pouring rain Sunday night, and so I didn't roll my garbage out until Monday morning, and usually that hadn't been a problem because I'm up and out before 8 o'clock, but apparently he got there about 7:30 this Monday. Enjoyed the fireworks. I want to thank the folks at the North Carolina Transportation Museum and the other sponsors who were involved, and I'm glad that we were able to take part in that too. I thought the fireworks display was really good. I have about 18 minutes of it on video if anybody's interested in knowing that. Again, I think it's been good to see the people come out and give us their input about the things that we're doing in town. I attend the planning board meetings, and we had people there last night as well who were interested in things that were going on. I have had citizens contact me about questions and issues that they've had, and I've been able to get some answers for them. And so I always appreciate it when somebody lets me know if they have an interest or if they have a question, because that's the way we know how to make an informed decision about the decisions that we need to make. And if you don't tell us where you stand or tell us what you're thinking, then we have no input from you, and it's always good to know. So thank you for contacting me. If you have questions or complaints, I'll listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank the residents that came out to the meeting this evening, the ones that get public comment as well, and hopefully the ones that are looking online, thank them as well. And hopefully more residents will get involved and continue to be informed of what's going on in the town and the events that we're having as well. Want to congratulate Ms. Patrice Mitchell again for becoming a part of the Community Appearance Commission, and also Mr. Jim Mosher for the Planning and Zoning Board. I too enjoyed the fireworks, and everything seemed to went through smoothly. Want to thank all of the department heads, the staff, and the board here for continuing to strive to make this town better. And Chief, I didn't get the memo for the hats for the fireworks show, though. But other than that, I hope that everyone has a blessed rest of the week, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Oh, really?
Working my way in.
You're working your way. Spoil me this time. You're supposed to be last.
Keeping you on your toes.
All right. One comment, or two comments. One, I'd like to commend all our staff members that are working outside. June is a hot month. July and August is normally a worst month. And I commend all of them for their hard work and dedication for the town, doing their work, whether they're working for Mr. Taylor or fire department or the police department. They're all doing an outstanding good job. And bragging about the fire department. Our church, our Methodist church, about 3 weeks ago had three new attendants to our church, but it was 3 members of the fire department that came and sat in for our meeting.
Awesome.
And that was really neat. Our congregation really appreciated that, and it means good to see faces that they don't recognize as far as they go. So it's good to see that. So I appreciate them showing up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Moody?
It was just great to see faces here tonight. It's really nice to see little names on the side when we speak to our comrades on Zoom. I appreciate everyone who sends feedback, questions, concerns. And I just want to thank everyone. I think it's amazing the quick turnaround we have on projects here. I appreciate all the hard work everyone does on behalf of the town of Spencer here and all the residents. So thank you so much. In this heat, I will never acclimate, but I don't know how you guys get so much work done, but I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Howe?
Absolutely. I'm going to second everything everyone's already said. No point in reinventing the wheel. You've all said it well. Yeah, I was looking at the mural earlier, and I think I can't wait for that to be out. That's going to be phenomenal. But that reminded me that when I was in high school, the street dance and all the activities around that stopped. And I don't know why. And maybe someone here or out there watching knows why. I guess that was beyond me at the time. I was doing other things. But I think that as we move forward, that would be a thing we need to try to get back. And I say we, meaning everyone, not just us on the board and staff, but someone out there who's watching or hears about this. I think we need that. We need that back.
It's a job for the active living coordinator once we get there. All right, thank you, Mr. Howe. Mayor Pro Tem.
One thing I can add about the street dances, years ago, and even when they more or less discontinued, the Spencer JCs had sponsored all of those. And then it kind of disbanded and started back up. So we do have some organizations that might help with that. I think it's a great idea.
I believe the JCs are back, aren't they?
Yeah. I just wanted to say I'm still amazed at the level of expertise, the professionalism, and dedication from everybody that I have met who works for the town of Spencer. I just don't know how we got so lucky, but we are blessed with our employees. And I want to do everything we can to make sure that we keep them here. So hats off to all of them. And I also want to issue a personal thank you to Ryan Ledbetter, our intern who has gone back, I think, to college where Sky is. I love the intern program and I hope we continue with that. Ryan did an outstanding job of helping me with working with the schools and oversaw the school and safety grant. And I just was real impressed with both him and Sky. That was a win-win situation. And speaking of schools, we're about a month away from school opening again. I know that's hard to believe, but we're close. So be mindful that kids are still out on the streets, and yes, sometimes they don't look where they're going, and we don't have sidewalks everywhere we need them, and sometimes they won't use them anyway. But just be mindful of that, and get in touch with your schools, one of our 3 local schools, and see if there's anything you can do or provide to help school opening a little bit easier and better. I do know that North Carolina High School does have a snack and a weekend food supply thing to go home. Our church contributes to it. They accept toiletries and any kind of foods like teenagers like to eat, and you know how much they eat. So if you want to contribute something or talk to your church, get in touch with Crystal McCrae, and she'll tell you how that is done. But call and see if there's anything you can do or help with. I know the Boosters Club at North Rowan needs some help. They've got a lot of athletes that don't have the funding that they need to participate sometimes, and they have to feed the kids before they go to events because it's not a good idea to send them home because some of them don't make it back. And it's just easier if they keep them all together after school. So think about asking some of your church groups or organizations or individuals if you want to be interested in that. And if you're not sure how to get in touch with somebody at the school, call me because I still know all the numbers by heart. And I'll be glad to give you the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Everybody else has said it all, so I should just probably yield my time to Mr. Blunt and let him close this. No, everybody said it. So I think it's fitting to close with a dad joke in honor of the heat this month. So for Father's Day, my kids got me a dad joke button that you push and it tells dad jokes. So this one's fitting for the heat. So my daughter told me that she was cold, so I told her to go stand in the corner because it was 90 degrees.
That's an engineering joke.
No, I just want to reiterate what everybody said. We've got a great team. We've got a great staff. It's a pleasure to work with the board. Appreciate all everybody does. Is there a need this evening to go into executive session for any reason? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. A motion by Mr. Muhammad. Second by Mr. Howe. All in favor? All right. All opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.